Calling to order regular meeting of the Advisory Commission on Coastal Waters. It's Monday, November 18th, 2024, 7:30 p.m. and we're in the auditorium. And present tonight is Rob Roberto, David Kahn, Marty Masterson, Julie Jones, Bill Wright, Grant Tankus, Sam Bridges, and our harbor master, John Keena. And missing is Dave Devers, Flip Hufford, Kevin Marks, and Lori Bora. So I think the first thing we'll do is adopt the minutes from the last meeting. So if, does anybody have any comments on the minutes that I sent around? No? Can we have a motion?
I move motion to accept the minutes.
Seconded? All in favor? Yes.
Yes.
Motion passed. As for our chairman's report tonight, I think don't have anything to talk about except that we're going to talk tonight about our collective advice for the Great Island Commission a little bit after, if there's a report from the harbor master after that. I don't think there's anything else on the agenda. Bill, did you have anything to add?
No, the ordinances are still held up with our town council.
Yes.
So we're waiting to hear back from them. It would be nice to hear soon. So that's one item. And then the other items, you need to decide whether you're going to keep going next year with this group. We hope you all will. And I would also like to throw in there, maybe we can change it to 7 p.m., but that's minor stuff. We'll talk about that later. Anything else? Oh, one quick, shellfish. I think Marty came up with that we have to do something in December with the lease. So
That's right.
would you be able to, and Bill Cavers, maybe kind of
We're going to work on that.
charge forward on that?
I think it makes sense to get them back on track
Okay.
and have
It does.
an agreement that's current.
Okay.
in our
What,
hands, 'cause
what
they're-
year is the agreement from? How old
I
is it?
think it expired in 22.
Oh, wow, okay.
Yes, we're out.
Yeah.
But I believe that their ability to fish those waters is dependent upon the town's allowing through some sort of charter like that. So we need to get that back.
Do you think you'll need legal counsel to finalize that too before the end of the year?
So Roger doesn't seem to have a problem with getting it back on track. So I think if we can adopt an older version, make sure it's all current, change it when we have to, and make sure it goes through the channels. Then,
You probably should have
we should
town council bless whatever goes out, because laws change and
Yep.
stuff has to get updated and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, we'll get that going. We got to up their log on what they contribute to the shellfish beds.
Great, thanks.
It's all part of it.
Great. And Bill Cavers is going to join us
Right.
a little bit later tonight. Okay, so anything from the harbor master to add
Yeah,
tonight?
a couple of things. Just looking at the previous minutes, I did discuss buoy maintenance with the Norotan Yacht Club. They're open to taking care of that. Probably have to put together a contract spelling out what needs to be done. I don't know if I'm empowered to do a contract, because this is actually would be an agreement between the Norotan Yacht Club and the town of Darien, so I'll make some inquiries to find out if they want me to do it or if somebody else needs to sign on it. It's not big money, because these aren't mooring buoys, they're just marker buoys, so the tackle is very, very light. I actually got hold of the subcontractors that actually are empowered with managing the buoys off of Greensides Lighthouse that we've had so many problems with. There was one stray one that had floated off and was sitting off of Hay Island. That has since been removed. I've also asked them to assess all of the buoys, because it's clear that the buoys are not doing what they're intended to do. They're floating off. The tackle must be substandard. So they said that they were going to replace, they were going to move that buoy, which they did, and then they were going to assess all the buoys and fix as necessary. They're not empowered to make any changes because, or do anything without the permission of the contractor. They're a subcontractor The contractor is actually the contractor that is in charge of replacing the bridge, and they've just been subbed out to manage the buoys on their behalf. As far as the ordinances, I have a little bit of an update.
Okay, great.
It looks like some things are progressing. It sounds like things are getting closer to moving forward. I also did state that I would feel more comfortable, and I think it would be in the best interest of the town if there was a maritime attorney that looked over the ordinances. I once again talked about the attorney that I brought forth to them, gave him the background on what he manages and the similarities that he faces with the group that he's with. They have some sort of special act along those lines, because the 5 Mile River Commission is able to do things that you normally wouldn't be able to do unless you have a harbor management plan, and they don't have one. So there must be something that is there in place for them. So I emphasize that. I'm going to follow up with an email just to make sure. One thing I did find which was encouraging, I spoke with Jeffrey Stedman today, and he told me that he actually spoke with some of the powers that be here at Town Hall on Special Act 597 and was asked about his opinion, and he basically told me, he said, unless there was another special act that was passed to intentionally overturn the one we have, it's still in place. He goes, I'm not a lawyer, but speaking from experience, it seems like, it's still in power. So I think that gave some comfort to me and others that, whoever he spoke to at Town Hall. That's all I really have for right now. I'll keep it quick.
Great. Okay, so just for the benefit of the cameras, we've asked everybody on the commission to send their ideas in for what they would like to advise the Great Island Commission on with respect to coastal water and coastal related issues. And we're going to go through that list tonight and make decisions on what the ultimate list of advice is for the Great Island Commission. And so this is going to be a little bit of a process, but I think it's going to be a good one. And this has been informed by people attending sessions and visiting the island and seeing the surveys and talking to the consultants and going to the focus groups, and also their own personal use in and around the island of the waters and the coastline. And so we think this is really helpful and informative for the Great Island Commission and for the town. And that's what our job is here, is to advise on coastal waters and coastal related issues. So with that, I'd actually like to start on the second to last page, because there were a couple overarching theoretical approaches to this that I think we need to make a decision on. Unfortunately, Kevin Marks isn't here this evening, but I'm going to start with his. And he thought the scope of our input should be limited specifically to the waterfront and waterline access to Great Island, avoiding recommendations for the island's interior. And he thinks the charter emphasizes value, which I'm not sure what that means, but and he also thinks that we should be keep our recommendations focused to help prevent overlap and redundancy with other groups. So I'm just going to say that I went back and I looked at what our mandate was, and it is not as limited as Kevin purports. It is for the protection and use of Darien's waters and shellfish beds. And that mandate is not limited to just the water line and outwards to the end of Darien's waterways. I interpret it as a lawyer because in order to protect the shellfish beds in the water, you need to understand what's going on land. the greatest danger to shellfish beds is pollution from land that enters into the water. And we also know from the Unified Water Study that the greatest impacts on water health, which impacts our marine life and people swimming in it, also come from the land, whether it's E. coli type pollution or fertilizers that are nitrogen loading the waters. And then we also have our other mandates that are on safety and making sure that we're thinking about the safety of the residents of Darien so that everyone can boat and swim and paddle and kayak in a safe manner. That's my take. If somebody else has a different opinion, this is the time to.
I will agree with you on that. It has to, all things are connected, so we have to, anything close by to our resources have to be examined too, and this is a perfect opportunity for that to be tested and actually pushed forward in many cases.
Well, by that measure, the entire town flows into, as a watershed, into the Sound and in and around Great Island.
Yeah, I mean, you could test it even further if they have all the septic systems over in Tokenique and that area, you know. Should that be something to go after eventually? I would say not at this point, but maybe we should.
Yeah, well, we're limited to Great Island tonight, but this is, we're advising the town. This is advice. This is based
Right.
on, I will say that Flip Hofford and Bill Cavers agree with my view and Bill's view. So, just to put that out there.
In looking at this, I don't think that any of this stuff is so far overreaching that that our experience as, like, let's say, coastal and water enthusiasts and some experts, I don't think any of this overreaches that. It's not like we're talking about the structure of the entry gate. You
Yes.
know, I think all this is directly related to
Coastal
the
usage.
coastal usage and enjoyment and pulling from our knowledge, time, and experience. I mean, I don't think any of this stretches that far.
I'd agree with you on the whole, and then in terms of the discussion about our influence on what happens with Great Island, I can see what you're saying. Trying to keep it focused, because everybody has an opinion on what should happen here, but for the commission's take, we could certainly talk about fertilizers and septic systems that are on Great Island, but also how to use the water around it would help to keep it channeled, so I agree with you on the whole.
I concur. The only thing I would add is that the shellfish beds, the most important thing, the thing I'm worried about is that somehow or another the town's got to make sure that if people enter the shellfish beds at a time when it's not safe to take shellfish, there has to be some kind of signage there. And so that is a responsibility. The minute, I believe, the town is going to have that responsibility the minute the town offers entrance via that waterway.
Let's save like specific points, because we're gonna get to
Okay.
shellfish, but then,
Okay.
but
That's the
save
only
that and
thing I
bring that
would
up
say.
at the time. So, we can also address if we think there's overreach in here when we come to a point. It's not an all or nothing, but I thought we should bring that up. I also wanted you to have a chance to give your take, which either, I was thinking to call it the laissez-faire approach or the tragedy of the commons approach. I also think that's.
We've all vacationed in different places up and down the East Coast. Where do people go here? Nantucket, Martha's Vineyard, Block Island, I don't know. I don't see a lot of signage all over these places of what you should and shouldn't do. People walk on the jetties and fish, and they go and they swim, and I feel like we're trying to tightly prescribe activities into different places and don't do this and don't do that. I was just telling Rob, I went over the weekend on a hike up in Reading with my wife and my dog in a giant park that straddled Reading and Newtown, and there were lakes and ponds and trails, and I'd be hard pressed to find a sign anywhere. And everyone was very well behaved and having a nice time with their kids and their dogs, and I think we can overdo it here. And I think I'd just rather see the focus on how do we get people out there and enjoying it rather than, you can only do this over here, you can only do that over here, don't do that. I think people will be generally well-behaved, and no matter what signage you put out there, you're going to have bad actors. Yeah, it's just going to happen. People are going to throw trash, they're going to do things that you don't want. Let's just try to, if there are problems down the road, then you deal with it. Let's get people out there and having fun.
Okay.
I think there's a lot of validity to what you just said. Yeah. Validity, I agree. It's like, there are bad apples everywhere you go, and they're gonna be bad whether you have a sign or not, you know? And I think like the minimalist approach out there, like less building, less construction, enjoy the natural beauty of it, you know? It's a pretty unspoiled special place. And if you can enjoy it for that, I think you're pretty lucky.
For the same reasons that hiking trails have a kind of common knowledge amongst the people that really enjoy using them to know if I see trash, I'm going to pick it up. It might outweigh the amount of bad actors, but we hope that it's not so bad of an acting job. It ruins it for everybody else in some way. But there's a lot of decent people.
Okay, so I think with that overview, and if anybody wants to look at what I also put what Kevin had suggested, a couple of models. One was in Greenwich. This is on the last page. I think it's the last page. How Greenwich manages Great Captain Island and Little Captain Island with restrictions, and Milford. I'm not sure. I mean, there's some touch points here with our beach and the boats, but we're going to talk through all that as we go through.
Yeah, I think we should.
Okay, so, and if I missed anyone's comments in the emails, I apologize, it wasn't intentional, and we can add it in. There's just a lot of stuff to collate. And Bill, I know there's a couple things you sent over that I think got missed, that I noticed after I printed everything out, so. Okay, so I think we should start page 1 and go through these and decide whether it's something we want to recommend or not recommend or table.
So this is something you printed out?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
Just thinking if I missed an email.
No, I just,
No, we're just handing them out.
Thank you.
I thought it was, I wanted you guys to be the first to see it. Okay, so the first one, we're starting with water and shellfish protection, water quality protection. Ensure on-land activities don't worsen water quality in shellfish beds. And this was a Flip's comment, I supported, and it sort of leads into the rest of the things on this list. You know, no fertilizer, no herbicide, no pesticide zone, limit impervious surfaces to minimize runoff. I think from the meetings I've heard, the less paving is sort of the more popular thing from the residents in the surveys anyway. So hopefully that's something that's going to happen naturally, but improve. Let's skip the next two because they sort of are less connected, but don't use salt on the Great Island roads in the wintertime because it runoffs the sound and increase the salinity. So those are all kind of related to things running off Great Island into the water, things that are put on the island by the town's public works and into the water. So there's sort of a bucket. What do we think? Support, not support?
Yeah, I think it's all reasonable. I think declaring it a no fertilizer, no herbicide, no pesticide zone is a good idea. I think some people might not care as much, but I think it's all good.
Do we know if they've even used it in the past?
Well, we know they put arsenic down.
Well, when there were
I know they were.
orchards there.
Yeah, I don't know what the plan, I don't know, but I
The
think
town-
Lori said at one point that they weren't doing it
Yeah,
currently.
there's no fertilizer, our town's not putting fertilizer on there now.
I know they're using
It may have been.
pesticide, because they were very worried about grubs for some reason. Not sure why, but,
And what we're trying to do here is very much what our Environmental Protection Commission is focusing, trying to get to. Where every application comes up, we're trying to, cut back on lawn, a number of things. So it's kind of the same program, although now we're bringing it to grid.
it also saves money for the town, which was Flip's point.
Would invest in nature-based solutions include like proactively setting up like a bioswale, something where if we see there's a great deal of runoff, they should correct it?
Yeah, that certainly could be one of them.
Something
I-
proactive.
Yeah, I know that the survey, if anyone looked at the new survey, they asked about, would people be interested in seeing more native plants planted on the property? If you had a bioswale, you'd fill it with native plants, and that would also help. But I think it's a question for a more sophisticated group to come up with those nature-based solutions.
Right, okay, so by that you meant like a proactive eye towards what could improve.
Yes.
What, the runoff situation which already exists there.
Yeah, not worsen it, because we know we're gonna have more people out there, potentially dogs, things going into the water, so. Do you want us to have a yay or nay on these? Who's in favor?
Do you want a line item, yay or nay, or do you?
Well, I sort of put those in a bucket
I'll
of
second
things that are
that.
running off into the water.
I think they're all fine, but I'm really in favor of less is more.
But this is sort of less is more, right? Less fertilizer, less herbicide.
No, I'm just, right.
And if I understand what we're trying to do here, we're trying to give them, it may not be what they need to do immediately now, but they're looking for vision, right? So a lot of this should be done right now. But it's also, okay, you can't do it now, it's part of the vision, and that we can push it to.
So
It's a-
let me give you an example of what I was thinking about, like signage. In Rhode Island, there's all these salt ponds. I lived on a salt pond for 20 years. And everyone knows where the clam beds are, and they're distinctly marked. There's one sign on each side of where the clam beds are, and it describes what happens. That's less is more. That's it.
Yeah, I think QR codes, less signs. How about you
Maybe.
you walk in the thing,
I
you
hadn't
get
thought
your
about
QR
that.
code, and then you get it on your phone, and you.
This was brought up in meetings past too, about like the shellfish beds and how, like, when they're open and closed and how you're supposed to kind of share that information. And I think if I recall correctly, David, it's sort of the impotence is put on the person who's actively shellfishing. And that, like,
Yeah, that's true.
if you're gonna go shellfishing, you should go to the website beforehand, and you should make sure that those bed areas are open, and that you're doing it in the right time and with the open beds, and you're responsible for it. So I think you're right in that, is that, like, this is a designated area. Like, a QR code to take you to the website to make sure they're open, that's an easy
And a
thing.
map, and whatever, yeah.
There is no website.
Well.
There's
but-
a
but-
hotline.
but
Sorry,
there'll be
the
a-
hotline, not the
But if
website.
they're gonna have a Great Island website, probably, they've talked about having maps. This is like this would be a great idea if you did this. I think if we're opening shellfish beds to walkability, we're gonna have to have an information campaign for the town to begin with. So, you need to have a permit if you're gonna go down there. You need to check the website to make sure that it's the right time of year. I mean, if you're gonna have a lot of new people doing this, I think a little education will go a long way. Here's a QR code that, the consultants are coming up with stuff. If we say, like, wouldn't it be great if you had a site that would show the map where you could go, and then has a link to the Shellfish Commission
Apparently it's a hotline, but.
or a hotline,
Yeah.
or a.
There is a
number.
website that exists, the Department of
Yeah.
Health, and it has the maps, and it has the regulations, and it tells you everything that you need to know, and the Department of Agriculture manages the updating the call-in number, and what's open and what's closed.
So you don't think it'd be helpful to have some information on Great Island if people are gonna be,
I think it all ought to live in one place,
Yeah.
and it lives under the purview of the Department of Health, right?
but if they're doing, and I think they're thinking about doing some sort of information
Station.
station. Like, wouldn't you want some sort of linkage?
I could see on the Great Island website a small bar that turns red or green. Shellfish beds are open or shellfish beds are closed. And if you want to learn more, click it. It brings you to the Department of Health or it takes you to the state website.
I don't disagree with Julie that like if you are gonna have people coming in and doing things, it doesn't need to be littered with signs everywhere, but it's almost like a visitor board,
The
right?
trail map for when you show up at the
Trail
trail.
map,
That's
right?
great.
And,
That's a
and,
great idea.
and if it's got a loop of the roads or whatever, it's got little out points like shellfish in bed and a QR code there. It doesn't need to be in every single place, like every 4 feet there's a sign. But I think a centralized location that you can like, the first time you go in there, like, oh, you know what? We're at the Rotary. Like I can go up this way and come back this way and I'll be right back here and I'll lead out. Like, it doesn't have to explain how to put one foot in front of the other, but like, that this is the road.
I agree with that.
Right.
I'll call it the
I agree,
trailhead.
I agree with that.
Trailhead map.
I agree with
Trailhead
that
map,
too.
I think that's great, like,
Can I just make a comment? We're already off track of the list.
Okay, sorry.
Can we, and we're spending a lot of time on one subject.
Okay.
So I'm happy to do that as long as everybody wants to stay up till 4 a.m.
No,
So,
I'm with Julie. Let's speed it up.
let's,
Yeah.
Charge.
but all of those are like
coastal wildlife impacts.
great, yeah. But like, let's just
All right.
like try to, because we're gonna talk about, so Shellfish Act, I'm gonna add on here, trail map. Central.
Is this the only place where there's shellfish question, so we don't?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, I tried to. I think I did put in, actually, I did put in the QR code as well, but okay. So back to, can we just do a hand raise on whether we want to advise, like, to be more natural in the caretaking of the island when it comes to chemicals, and to ensure we don't worsen the water quality?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's a good lead.
And invest in nature-based solutions. Yes, okay. All right, so this was brought up on the focus group. The consultants proposed some quite extensive, I think would be expensive, to open up the flushing between Scotts Cove and Ziegler's Cove. Seems to me like a big infrastructure project. I don't know
It
if
used to
it-
be an island. It would be returning it to what
Right.
it was.
I mean, I don't know if there'd be an appetite for it at the town level, but I think it'd be a cool idea if there was ever an appetite for it to relink the two.
What's the permitting approvals for that? Everything
Never
sounds
gonna happen.
dramatic.
I'm sure
I'm
it is,
sorry, I
and
missed
I'm
that.
sure
What-
it's a
what did you say?
long-term.
Connecting what, I'm sorry?
Scotts Cove and Ziegler's. So
Basically,
there's a
making
water-
Great Island an island again,
Yeah.
like going where the roads
So
are.
there's
and
flushing
opening it up.
between the two water sources to,
Underneath the two roads.
Yeah, I'd imagine they probably put culverts, and I don't think they're gonna remove the land bridge, but, you know.
yeah. put
I'm
something
worried
under-
that that
yeah.
might distract from what we're trying to do more.
If you
because
can't trim the trees, you're not gonna.
Well, right.
That's gotta be a 20-year project.
Also, it's gonna be a $20 million project, so
That's
Yeah.
that's a nice to have versus need to have.
But yeah, there's the like, wouldn't it be great? And then there's the, okay. All right, so maybe we're gonna leave that alone.
I would suggest that
Okay.
Our grandchildren can focus on.
yeah, I think if you're gonna do that, you should suggest stretching the entire Darien Harbor to 8 feet. I think that's in the same realm.
Yeah.
It's just
Wouldn't it be-
never going to
yeah,
happen.
If somebody, yeah.
It's a waste. That's why consultants are in this room, in that situation, are bad. Like, they have no idea the physicality of that.
Okay.
Martin, right? I mean, like, dredge Bridgeport to 40 feet everywhere through it. Like, it's never gonna happen.
I don't know, actually, you tell us, how hard would it be to put a culvert underneath?
I mean, it's just a pipe, so, you'd be digging up the ground and putting a pipe in, but taking that water, it's gonna find its way out. So if it finds its way out through Ziegler's, if it finds its way out through Scott's, it sort of doesn't matter, but I could imagine also that you don't necessarily want that path. There's a path for a reason, so just leave it the way it is.
Unintended
I think it needs
consequences.
to flush out.
Well, actually, given sea level rise, it'll probably find its own way over through it.
Natural solution.
Natural solution. Okay. All right, so now we're on the shellfish bed access. Provide walking access to town shellfish bed. I know you're like, you made your point about the eagle nest. There are federal restrictions, and it's a $100,000 fine, and it's a year in jail. So I think a little education might be good. I know a couple people who are willing to call the vets in the event they see someone walking over the line, so.
As an incidental to that, I had lunch with the head of Connecticut Audubon. We were talking about a bunch of things other than this, but I did bring up the eagle's nest, the couple cycles of offspring that have happened, and some of the issues, and all the people probably are going to drive them off. And she said they're very resilient in people situations.
Oh, that's
They don't
good.
move easily. And she also said they're really doing well. And she said you'd be unlikely to get an Audubon, including themselves, involved in worrying about this eagle's nest. They said, for example, oyster catchers are in real danger on the Connecticut coast. They'd be more interested in if there was an oyster catcher nesting area on the island. They'd come down in an instant. But eagles, they said they'll just be fine.
What does an oyster catcher look like?
Well, they got red eyes, which are really cool, and red
Are they
orange.
black?
It's got a kind of funky
Orange
bill
beaks, yeah.
that's sort of flat and kind of protrudes out like a couple spoons kind of.
Great noise.
It's like a 3.5-inch beak, and they always come in pairs.
Huh.
Really pretty, and they nest on the beach, a beach.
Okay.
They're all over Fish Island. You see them all over there, but I don't really see them on Great Island.
I mean, I think in this case, back to our plan, it's easy enough, even if they stretch to 330 and we can't reduce it at all, that we can easily get a path through to the shellfish, so.
Well, I was actually looking at I was thinking about the timing because, so what are our shellfish times? What months?
It's all
Ones
year
with
long.
R,
Is
Well,
it
it
all
doesn't
year long?
close for the
It's only for-
Great Island bed. That is year round.
That's year round, okay.
And then the one over in Ziegler's, those two pieces on either side, is going to be sometime in November through sometime in April.
Okay,
So the only time
Well,
they
that's a
close
different-
is weather-related, if they get too much rain in the shower.
okay. Because I was thinking maybe it wouldn't even be an overlap, but
It would be.
it will be an overlap.
I had a suggestion on this, and that is, I think shellfish bed access is a really important issue because it's a way to get people down to the water to do things. And I think we get like 40 or 35 permittees every year, and some of them are from Stamford and some of them from Darien. I'd love to see that number go up. So,
I'm not saying that's even, I don't know how far it is from the nest to the bed,
but I'm
but we're
just,
just saying if we,
I'm sorry, maybe I jumped into another point, but I was just thinking,
Oh.
this is, I think, an important issue, the shellfish bed access, and to yank it into its own section.
well, I was just gonna say,
You're on the
I
eagle,
don't
sorry.
know well, I'm just saying that for access, if it's prohibited, we may be able to skirt the outside
I don't-
and create the trails.
I don't think it's our problem.
Outside.
But you
I
can
think,
easily.
I think you've said there's a legal problem
Yeah.
here, but in a perfect world, we'd like access.
Yeah,
So
and
as a commission, do we think it's important to have access to shellfish beds?
Yeah.
Yes. So I think that's included in the recommendation, right?
Yeah.
And you can.
Sorry, but like,
No,
No,
you're
no,
right.
no, I
You're
mean-
100%
that's
right.
it.
Yeah.
It's that simple. In a perfect world, we
And
have
they can
access to
figure
shellfish
out, and
beds.
they can figure out the path.
They can figure it out.
Yes.
You've set that email out a number of times, that there's a legality issue, so like it's their responsibility to
Yeah.
figure it out. It's
Okay.
not ours.
And I just would elevate this to its own number, just because I think shellfish beds are one of our areas that we're in charge of, and we should, I think, promoting their usage for families of the town and Stamford is a great thing, so I just think we should not subsume it under water protection.
Okay, it wasn't meant to be diminished, but I won't.
No, you had to
Pull it out.
Pull it out, it's just,
That was Chat GPT.
There you go. That tells you everything you need to know. I know how to use it.
Okay, number 3, the new number 3, coastal wildlife impacts. Protection of wildlife habitats. So we're back to signage. around sensitive habitats, including eagle nesting areas and cultural biodiversity spots. So I think we sort of talked about signage, and I think the preference is something limited but informative. Is that what we?
Well, I would go back to Grant's earlier comment, is this really us?
Yeah, I don't know about that one either. I agree.
But actually, at the last Great Island meeting, they actually spent time discussing the garbage cans.
Yep.
And what they're gonna look like. And I think they've picked out the color and style
And I
and
think we'd be,
everything.
since this is not our main piece, I think it's already being done, we should just push off and not do it. And by the way,
As long as they help make sure that there is no drainage into the sound.
and one of the things that
Along
they
there
said they were
by
gonna
the-
put
that's it.
33 signs up, and then we went up, and it was sounded like a lot of signs before they opened up this Saturday. I tell you, there were very few signs that were obtrusive, and I didn't see 33, so I was impressed. I thought it was gonna be littered with signs, and it didn't turn out to be that.
Well, what if you turn this away from wildlife and more towards flora? So like protect the trees and the beautiful rocks and the things that are on the shoreline, because they support wildlife. But if you turn this away from wildlife and more towards the habitat, the shoreline habitat.
Well, I think there's actually 100-foot
Foot.
buffer zone around the entire edge of the island, and I'm not sure where it comes from. It might be a conservation easement or
Just,
something.
does that
No,
mean you
that's-
can't even get a permit?
That's a
No, I don't-
Connecticut Coastal Zone Management.
Yeah, but you can't
Yeah.
even like apply for a permit? People wouldn't?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and so, to me,
Oh, okay.
it could be violated, and will be, or people will attempt to. I mean, this is,
When people put docks in, that's within the 100 feet. and they're
yeah,
putting docks in
and
the water, so-
patios and all
Yeah,
sorts of
it's-
things. Look at the coast up and down.
Just
the
makes
coast.
people stop and apply for things, but
Yeah.
it doesn't stop them from doing it.
But if we have another layer here which says, that the coastal zone is heralded and we want it protected where there are special spots. I don't know, I was just trying to have this.
And not just for the habitat, but also for the beauty, right? The
Yeah,
natural
it's an
beauty.
aesthetic thing, and it's a habitat thing.
Well, how-
So I think it still has legs.
How do people feel about that?
What are you trying to protect specifically?
The aesthetic, that's the first thing I think of, because I'm not so knowledgeable on all the biological stuff that hangs around the coast. But think over decades what they could build in terms, the successive town governments in terms of launching platforms for stand-up paddle boards, for kayaks, for kids sailing programs, for beaches, for patios to have, town events on. It's a beautiful coast, and if you look what people have done to it between Great Island and 5 Mile, there's a lot of stairs built down to the water, and there's a lot of waterfront things which render it a pretty man-built place and not a nature's place. So I think just as a place, it's worth protecting. You don't have to mention wildlife.
What do we think about that? If you're in favor, raise your hand.
I'm a little confused. What do we have?
It's not clear enough to
I'm
me.
not, yeah, I'm not clear.
Oh, we were talking about,
Just
yeah, maybe, so it's protection of wildlife habitats, and I guess it went to signs about sensitive habitats. I like the idea of keeping something, I'm not sure either. I'm trying to protect
As
the,
natural as it's always
Is there
been.
another place that we've already talked about further on in that? Seems like there was, but maybe not. Okay.
so this is like protecting vistas and scenery and aesthetics and thinking of things that do that. Maybe it's not anything to do with
Well,
signage.
it's kind of in 9 where we talked about additional coastal initiatives, and some of that is, a bunch of things in there, maybe that's what we're talking about.
do you,
It's the last
yeah,
one.
we do, it's the last one.
one.
Yeah.
This is where I'm not trying to whack this anymore if it's not the right place for this, but come across the water trail, because that elevates the aesthetic.
And you got number 9. It's in
Concept.
Yeah,
there.
you gotta wait for
You
number
got it,
9.
number
You gotta
9.
wait for number 9, Bill.
Not last because it's not important.
What Bill's saying is actually very much in line with what David wants.
Yes.
No signs,
Yeah.
leave it as much as
Absolutely.
to nature.
Listen, just so we're clear, I don't want this place covered in signs either.
Sure you don't.
And if they are signs, why do you think that?
It's a lawyer.
There you go. It just, it got the reaction I was
We
looking for.
better keep
so-
moving.
No, I don't, like some small, discreet.
Of course. Everyone wants to say
Okay,
that.
so, okay, so we're gonna leave that till later.
Kill two.
So number 3, you're on number 3 and 4? Or I skipped ahead? Health and bathrooms, because those are
What
kind
do
of,
So did we strike 2?
where are we?
We thought it was covered in
As
9,
not
right?
in our writ?
Or it can be covered in some other fashion.
That's what,
If two's about signage, I think it's a strike.
yeah, we said no to that.
Yeah.
How do
So
you feel
3,
about
health and
Sam?
safety?
What, sorry, I'm sorry.
I was saying we're moving on to 3.
I
Health
just want to
and
say, hi, do we feel like we should include anything on the leaf blowers?
Oh, yes.
I would love to have those out loud. It's so obnoxious.
I think
when
that's a
you go up
stretch of all
But I don't know how we,
jurisdiction.
I don't know how we could do that, of course.
Yeah.
It's,
I don't
oh,
know,
we could throw it out there. 'cause
Limited
it
to
needs be.
leaf blowers not to blow leaves into the water?
Just turn those dang things off.
We're the water commission.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, okay. The seabirds that eat the insects under the leaves.
They're very important,
They're very important.
but
but
maybe we throw it out there. You know, it's a little bit out of our.
It's kind of with the fertilizers, like leave it natural, right?
No, the fertilizers are much more direct. They fertilize into the water.
Okay.
I mean, the stretch would be, you want to be there in a quiet place along the coast, enjoying your boat, you don't want to hear leaf blowers. Okay, you could find it that
And you
way.
gotta go 5
It's the
miles
only place
offshore.
to tap
Yeah,
it.
but every place else, right?
Hide from leaf blowers.
I don't know how they
I think that's,
We'll leave that up, it's too
Okay.
much of a stretch.
Okay.
Okay, so, making progress, health and safety. Apparently they've been talking about trash.
Yeah.
So, and then I thought it'd be, instead of just trash cans, it really should be trash recycling. And we could even, this is what they do in Europe, like food composting. Are we gonna be, if this is our natural, we're embracing nature and we're supporting nature, like this is our chance to do it the right way. Have 3 different things and let Public Works deal with. There's a composting site at the dump and, I don't know. that
Well,
was
they
my
deal
thought.
with that, so it's just picking up from the composting site,
Yes,
so they'll just
and they're
pick up.
picking up anyway, so
Right.
recycling and,
That feels like overreach to me. I don't know.
well, what's the difference between that and saying we need trash cans?
There are trash cans at all the beaches today. There aren't composting things at all the beaches.
There's
Now you're
recycling.
creating some sort of separate process where someone has to come in a truck and pick up a composting thing, and it just, that's over the top for me.
What do other people think?
I agree with that.
Agreed.
Too persuasive.
I think it's also just not for the community.
Okay.
Personally.
Here, now we're back to more signs.
Yeah, they already have signs there, by the way, on the beach. You know, they're saying alert to more risk. So they already started that whole process, so we're kind of like duplicating, and I think we're coming in a little late.
Listen, see, I actually think, I'm with David on this one, I wouldn't put any signs warning on the beach of the rocks, because it seems self-evident to me.
They only did that because the insurance carrier went around with them and started pointing these things out, so they had to put them on. But, you know, we don't want to add on to that, but I'd also think if it's already being handled, maybe we need to talk about it.
What do other people think about this?
I would agree, I think it's a public safety campaign that we can weigh in on, but I think the town has.
But we are coastal safety, that is our first sweet spot, so we should think about it.
Definitely, but if it's already being done, then
this is signage to what, beaches or water or,
I don't know whose comment was this? Anybody wanna
which,
own it?
I think our view is a little bit different. What is the exact comment? Because
It's number 2 under 3.
So provide safety signs to prevent injuries similar to other beaches.
I had made a comment about the old retaining wall at the beach that I think should be marked in some way, because if that beach area does open up, and that may be further along,
Yeah,
but,
it's further in there.
okay, it's further in there, but that's, we'll talk about that in a second.
Okay.
But it sounds like if they're already answering to the insurance carrier, maybe we don't need to even.
I agree.
Yeah, right, one less thing. Okay, bathroom facilities. Wastewater management. direct bathroom wastewater treatment facility instead of the on-site septic systems. Check consultant, civil engineer of sanitary sewer system developed 30s to move your sewage to Stanford. This is sort of I think I talked to Ed Gentile about this, and he had said that it's all septic, I think, out there currently. And they had checked them and they said they weren't leaking. Do you know anything more about this?
Well, somebody brought up this, when they were on this subject, on another subject, they were talking about doing a pump out station there. And in order to do that, you have to have city sewer. And I'm not aware that they have it. And when I started talking about that in the Zoom call, I could actually see the woman, the health, when I said, I don't believe that there is city septic on the island, she nodded in agreement that there isn't. So it is septic. There's no city sewer there.
So
Having a pump out station also generally mandates that there's someone there and that those things break all the time. What would be an interesting alternative is try and engage soundkeepers or someone like that, to come through there on a Saturday or Sunday, right? I mean, and maybe that's
That's a good idea.
because that's less interface with the town and having to be at a dock and someone running that machine, but like soundkeepers, if you're like, hey, why don't you go through there on,
But with the soundkeeper, unless you put the porta potty on the dock, how's he gonna pump it out?
I don't have a porta potty, I have a built-in head with a big holding tank. So-
Well, yeah, for that, but I think weren't we talking about here pumping out porta potties and stuff like that?
I thought you were connecting it with the population that shows up in the harbor, in Diggers, and so they'll use their boats and.
we're jumping a little bit.
Yeah,
because
it's
what I
further,
wanna-
all that's,
Yep, sorry.
I think this one we're talking about is, and Bill, you should speak this because this is EPC sort of related, but this is like do we want to advise the town? Again, they don't have to listen to us, but what's our position that we want clean waters? This is a large town property where there's multiple buildings. Should they be out in front of the rest of the people, the multi-millionaires along the water whose septic is leaching into the sound that we all swim in and
No,
fish in? And
I think we absolutely need to say, this is something we should reach for. It should be on town sewers. There's so many places that are along that area, so many that aren't, and this is the opportunity. And actually, I put that comment in about the 1930s, because there were people that told me that actually Ziegler was ahead of his time, and he wanted the sewage off there, and he actually made a deal with Stanford. And on the postcard, you can see 1930 sanitary manhead covers that are still there. But I can't prove that. And everybody in the Department of Public Works is saying, no. It doesn't matter. It probably doesn't work anyway. But the idea is,
I'm sorry.
I think we should.
There are sewers that were put in 20 years ago, all the way out to Long Neck, that came right over and out to Long Neck. It's
Right.
straight across.
So it's an easy connect.
It's,
Somebody-
but it's not an inexpensive
No,
connect.
but it's a connect.
It's a connect.
So maybe
It
that
can be
comment
done.
is ensure the health and clarity of the water by ensuring that the current sewer system on Great Island is properly functioning with no leaching and with a end goal
Upgrading it,
of
taking it.
connecting it to city sewer.
Yep.
Right? I think that's the
No,
purpose.
Absolutely.
I agree with that.
I think that's a
Something
very
you can-
simple way of saying it, is like ensure that the leaching fields and the septics on the island are properly functioning through testing and consultants with a long-term goal of connecting to sewer.
Of course, they're doing the infrastructure.
That's where it ends.
They're doing the infrastructure work now.
I know.
So it's either now or it's probably never going to happen. That's the other.
I don't think that's our cross to
Are
bear.
they, right, are they
Clean water.
opening up the roads and doing that now?
No, but
No.
this
Well, when they do
when
it,
they're
then
gonna
that's the
start-
time, because
Yeah.
they're gonna tear up if they're gonna tear up the roads and widen them, that's the time.
So I think it's more about do we advise them that the better place to be is to be on town septic? And be.
Town sewer.
Town sewer, sorry. Town sewer, not on septic. Which
Town
is
sewer,
what
right.
is being advised by all the
it cannot
federal
possibly
and
hurt.
state authorities in the Northeast. This is our property, this is town property. Should we be doing the right thing on town property? If you're gonna be rehabbing all these buildings, shouldn't you be doing this as well?
As a long-term goal, I think that's something to say for the benefit of water clarity and health of the water, that the current system is operating at full function and has been serviced with a long-term goal of switching to public sewer.
Yep.
That's a recommendation because we know that fecal runoff and bodily pollution that gets in the water is bad for it, right?
And you don't have to say long-term, you
Yeah.
just say the goal would be,
Sure.
and maybe
With
we
a
can
goal
get it
to-
in while they're ripping things up.
Yeah, that's fine.
Sam, do you have something you want to add?
No.
I did actually see a porta potty there on Saturday.
Yeah, in
So
the woods.
could-
There is
before we
one- there
move
is
to-
one
so
there.
Did we agree with
Oh.
Grant? Agree with Grant?
Yeah.
Anyone?
Well,
I agree.
Contrarian.
It just feels a little bit like overreach to me for what we're, ought to be talking about, but I'm staying up.
Well, I can tell you, again, I keep going back to my Environmental Protection Commission, and we try, it's overreach for us too, but we keep pushing them, it's the sewer commission that's supposed to be doing that. But we keep pushing them because, all these issues are coming from usually septic systems that aren't quite kept up, and we'd like to get everybody on it. In this town, it's gonna be hard, because ledge, areas like Tokenie can push back too, plus it's very expensive, so it's hard. But I think this is a perfect spot to make an example.
And
like
especially
you
if
say,
they're doing the work
The connection's
now.
just down the road.
And they're doing the work now. Okay. John, you wanted to talk about porta potty, so you can take this one.
What's that, I'm sorry?
You want to take the porta potty one?
No, all I just said was, there is one on the island. I saw it.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I use it.
I'll comment it too, because I've used it a bunch of times myself, but they need many more just for what they're doing now. But I really think at the beach, at the dock, come spring, if we want to start showing there's a place to go instead of the water, it would be nice to have it there. And it's not an expensive thing, you just go in and pump it out, and that's a short term for now, they do that. So, that's my pitch.
Do you want to vote? Who's in favor of porta potties?
I'm
For the short term,
100% in favor.
But no sign.
They don't have to be camouflaged.
Okay. The next one's about putting signs on the dock promoting free boat sewage pump out service with phone number. This is probably yours, Bill, right?
East Norwalk Blue. I think most people know about it who have heads in their boats, but, again, signage seems to be an issue here, but if we constantly, people see that and they say, hey, I can call them right now, they come right here in Ziegler's and pump it out for me. It's not a very important one, but it's an add-on. I throw it out there as, if you don't know about East Norwalk Blue, you ought to, if you have a head in your boat. We're not too excited about it, no one's interested.
I like it, I think it's great. While you're sitting there for 3 hours having beer, have them come over and you're in
The
line.
percentage of boats in that harbor on 4th of July that have heads, I don't know, you probably know better. It may not be as many as we'd like, but,
Is it possible to call them and have them swing by twice a day?
well, they sit there on weekends, they'll usually sit nearby because
Oh.
they're looking for tips.
Oh, okay. Well,
And
look
so
at
they're
that.
just
I
waiting,
mean-
yeah. But they're in the, they can come back and forth between the waiting and all these spots very quickly.
So maybe maybe again, it's not our purview to say how it happens, but maybe the comment is engage
Or educate.
and educate voters on Norwalk Blue and Soundkeepers, and engage them to regularly tour the harbor on weekends, right? Because if they're there, people are going to catch on, right? And maybe that's a better way than not, But maybe not our way to say how it happens,
Yeah.
but say engage these organizations to promote clean water.
We in agreement? Should have Grant draft this.
I'm in agreement.
Yes?
Sadly,
No?
I'm leaving.
Yes? I know, you can,
Yeah.
I don't think you should.
We should just send the boats to East Norwalk.
It's all
So
going to
if
come out in
something
Stanford anyway
happens,
when
then
it
it
rains,
happens
so
there.
it doesn't really matter.
Ferry service.
condition the old boathouse is on the west side of the dock?
Not good.
No? Can you put a bathroom in there if you really want to?
It probably has one.
I don't know.
It does, it has one in there.
You and I were
God
there
only knows where it
forever
goes.
ago. That place is
Pretty-
in rough shape. isn't it?
Pretty weirded out. It's got lots of tanks in it and everything. Pumps, pipes, all sorts of
Bloom,
things.
Bloom Brothers, or the other guy from Norwalk, I can't remember who it was, had a lease. Bill bought all those clam boats, or oyster boats.
Talmadge Brothers.
One of them, I can't remember who it was, but before he passed away, he bought all those boats and helped those guys restore them and kind of get back on their feet and everything. And he converted that boathouse to an oyster shed
I think that was Blue.
and was cultivating oysters and stuff in there as part of his, like, that's a lot of those docks in there had cutouts and oysters
Yeah, I see
growing
that.
in the docks for many
That
years.
was the last use of it.
Yes.
And David and I took a tour of a young woman who managed the cultivation of seedlings in there. So she had a whole bunch of tanks with various
Yeah.
stage seedlings. It was pretty interesting.
It's pretty cool. My dad was in there as a kid when they used to have the race boats in there. Quite cool.
It was like a hobby farm. It was an interesting project.
It looked like some sort of Rube Goldberg thing that, this can't be a commercial operation. I don't know.
It was hobby farm.
Okay, let's keep moving. Compliance with health standards. Ensure bathrooms meet Connecticut Department of Health requirements, including, this is a Lori Borer comment, but I think
I think we should pull it.
they're already doing this.
They're already doing it.
So. Yes. ADA compliant, we talked about this. ADA compliant bathrooms near swimming areas, also, I think that's also required from her email. So I
don't
just
think-
say yes and,
You really want to put that in?
you know,
I would say we just leave it at, so we don't, look on somebody else's job.
okay.
Somebody else, so I don't want to be there.
So I think Lori said it was already taken care of.
Yeah.
Oh, now the good stuff. Moorings.
Hey, Grant, you want to run through these?
I don't think we should reclaim any moorings that are privately owned or operated. And I don't support adding guest moorings as well. I think it works fine.
I think there's something, if I don't know if I can quite express this, but I'm feeling it. If the island is the towns, and you want to have some largesse, some welcome to invite people, other towns express themselves in their harbors by having some guest moorings. And you like you pull up to Sand City, and I don't know if that's Cold Spring or I'm forgetting what town it is, that puts like 6 or 8 or 10 moorings there. And there's also some town moorings, I'm forgetting all my town names over there, in Huntington, the river, anyway, in Northport also. And they're sort of like, they're sort of like welcome, signs in some sense, like, come here, enjoy our harbor. And it also.
Commerce.
It's-
That's why it's there.
Well, yeah, then.
So people come and spend money.
Well, they also,
Right.
those buoys are for rent for $50 for the day or $6
Well, no,
for
there's,
the night.
there's some town ones, like
Yeah.
Sand City, you'll find like 10 town ones, 6 town ones maybe. Front arguing that detail, which could vary per harbor, and it might have changed since I've last been in some of these harbors, but it also enables the town to sort of own a little more the water. Like, hey, we're here, we're trying to ensure there's a nice place for people to come.
There was like a big push for accessibility in the surveys from the residents. That
It extends
if
out.
he is and between that and the water sports, and if you kind of marry the two, it does lend itself to saying it should be less private moorings and more, at least a little bit of public access, but feel free to weigh in.
Yeah, here's where I come in with some cautionary.
Because you'd have to do it all, right?
One of the arguments I heard, they wanted to, this sort of feeds into this, and I'm trying to explain to everybody where the town begins and where the state begins and ends, or however you want to look at it. One of the things that was discussed is they did not want the existing beach area to be a swim area because it didn't have X, Y, and Z. And I guess planning and zoning, or one of the wings of town government said, can't recommend it for that because we can't do A, B, and C. So the suggestion, well, let's just rope it off so people can't get to it. I'm like, you can't do that. You know, everything below the high water mark, you know, is in trust of the state, and you can't block people from going to it. Now, with the moorings, so I'm here in town and I'm granting permits to individuals for recreational vessels. We're talking about transient moorings, and we're actually talking about fee for service. Those are granted at the state level. And I'll tell you right now, if you approach this, as the town, as the state always talks to me, why don't you have a harbor management plan? And this is how they segue into these sort of things. I went through this with the Darien Boat Club when the Darien Boat Club was approached about having a pump out station. And we didn't have any interest in it. And the state came back to us and said, you guys are coming up on a maintenance dredge, aren't you?
Wait, can I ask a question though? Why is it fee for service if the town owns them? Is there, you mean, if they're charging for them?
In their plan, which they had at the last Great Island meeting,
That was,
revenue producing moorings.
okay. But what if they weren't revenue producing?
Flip must be involved in that.
They're still transient. And that will segue into town moorings, and they're gonna wanna talk about a harbor management plan.
But I'm sorry,
Because the
I
state-
don't understand it. So if they're transient moorings, they come into the purview of Connecticut Deep somehow?
Yes, I can't permit those. Those have to be permitted. So for instance, like I said, only for individuals recreational. Norotan Yacht Club, I put them on the path 2 years ago to get their own permit for moorings in the harbor. They're not recreational vessels. They're not permitted to an individual, they're permitted to an organization.
I see.
So they had to get a state permit. Now, they're not charging fee for service, so I think fee for service adds another level to it. And there's other, I don't want to call it restrictions, but other lets that you might have to give. Anyway, I spoke to Jeffrey Stedman this afternoon about a couple of things. And he didn't have time to elaborate.
Who's Jeffrey Stedman?
Jeffrey Stedman is basically the author of just about every harbor management plan there is on the Connecticut coast. He's an authority. And he had to leave at 5, and at 5 o'clock we sort of started the conversation. But as soon as I brought forth to him what we were thinking about, he goes, I don't have time to get into this, but he had a very cautionary tone. And I said, what, are we introducing ourselves to another conversation about a harbor management plan with the state? And he was, yeah, kind of. So, you know, you're talking fee for service. You can't charge fee for service for a mooring unless you have a harbor management plan. And now we're also talking about transient moorings, and that's another state permit issue.
But you can bypass all that by having a dinghy dock and letting people anchor their boat and take a dinghy in and doing so on their own accord. So a small dinghy dock with a 10-foot limit, like is mentioned here, is a way to enable access to people. They can take their paddleboard into if they want and tie that up and go for a walk around the property if that's what we're trying to do. But I also don't see like taking moorings away from people. Like that irks me. I don't think that's appropriate.
There would be a lot of blowback from that.
Huge.
I had a conversation also this last week and today with the harbor master for Fairfield. Because the harbor master, the Fairfield and Southport has a model where all of the permitted moorings are, this right was granted to them through their harbor management plan. They own all the moorings, and they actually charge a fee, which includes all of the maintenance, tackle replacement, and everything like that. Again, that was something that was granted to them through their harbor management plan. I'll talk about some other stuff later on about Southport Harbor, because I found out some very interesting history, but not now. But it's going to bring us to the it's going to, if you want to pursue this, you're going to have to go to the table with the state and they're going to want a harbor management plan.
Okay, do you want to vote on whether we'll put this in or not? Give everyone more discussion. Bill?
No, I agree with Grant. I think that it's working as it is, even if it's not the right way. And it's not like this is, Port Jefferson Harbor. There's nothing to do.
It also is a very special environment, the way that it is. And like, I use other people's mooring in Ziegler's Cove all the time. And oftentimes the owner of the mooring comes and they're like, hey, you're on my mooring. And you're like, absolutely. I'll get off right now. Thank you for letting me use it for a while. Have a great afternoon. And you part ways. And that's like, it's a very special environment in Ziegler's Cove. And if you tried to privatize or put all these moorings there, you're going to change that environment. And again, allowing a dinghy dock where people can gain access themselves and they're a little bit self-sufficient, part of the roots about being on the water, being self-sufficient. I don't know. I'm against that.
I think it sounds like the mooring question just is a whole nother entanglement.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
Well, thank you for more.
it is
Yep.
pretty,
No
Just
change.
say a no to that.
yeah, thanks.
But the dinghy dock, I think, is really needed.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that too.
So no on the first one, yes on the second one. Do not vote, or just do not vote. Do not
Yeah,
support.
just not gonna do that. Okay, more trash and bathrooms. So we've already sort of, I think this one's,
Oh, so we've already gone through the dinghy dock thing?
I think
Oh,
we,
you're
I
saying-
think we agree well.
And the other item that, in this, if you took this, all the survey, they put that on the survey, do you want a dinghy dock?
Yeah,
It's
that's
right
on
on
there.
there. So,
Yeah,
you know, whatever we
everybody should take the
recommend,
survey.
there's gonna be, we can only hope that the general public will use that too. It would be nice that we are in concert with that. Okay.
That's sort of a big thing. I mean, it's like, it would be a,
Get that?
I really think it'd be seen as, if we get behind that, that's something we'd be tagged with, hey, the Coastal Commission
It's
wanted a dinghy
also
dock. Which I think is
the
good.
easiest thing you can do.
Yeah.
And let's say we can't get that dinghy dock right away, you know, there's some hang up on this. What's everybody's feeling about using the dock that's there and try and just see how it works, right? It may be too crowded, it may not, it may be too long, but we give it a shot and see what happens. We've got a boat there that's a power boat, you know, there's a couple of issues on that too possibly, but if we can't get a dinghy dock right away, are we still okay with using the
An
dock?
intermediate thing. I'd say if you keep it to that 10 though, I don't, that's a pretty long dock. I think that could take a lot more than 10 dinghies, so I think
And
some
it's
sort
not
of
just
section.
dinghies, it's gonna be anything that floats. We keep using the word dinghy, but it's gonna be watercraft. People are gonna come up in anything that floats and they're gonna wanna get on that island, so they're gonna wanna pull that in. You can't say, you can't do that with that.
But see,
So-
I don't like that idea too much. I
Well,
think
how you gonna
relegating it
stop
to
it?
like little, 8 to 10 foot dinghies is the thing.
Yeah, but how are you gonna stop somebody coming over with their, paddleboard or whatever they have on the back of their
Well,
boat?
it causes a problem then if using that big dock. I also think if the fireboat's not moving, they don't want people, messing around near it.
My thought would be, let's see what happens, and see what shows up. Not a lot of people have dinghies. It's a larger boat that usually has a dinghy, so now you're discriminating against somebody else that wants to go in there, and they just have a little float. They wanna
I mean,
go-
Northport does that. They have a dock you can sign up or just show up. And I always have thought that is sort of odd. I'm more used to the dinghy dock concept where you've got, a mush of, you got to crawl all over it at once. So whatever you set, it always doubles or triples. But I sort of like that as a thing that limits the access. In some ways, the hordes can't come over. They can't all start rafting up off the dock with their, center consoles. There's a filter. You have to have a little dinghy and work your way over.
Yeah, and I'm with you on that, but I'm just saying it may not be a dinghy, it may be something else that gets over there.
I don't think it's a problem if someone paddleboards and ties a paddleboard up for 2 hours. I think the idea of a dinghy dock is, it's called a dinghy dock as like a symbol, but like
Yeah.
if you come in on a paddleboard, you come in on a kayak,
It's the same thing.
you're still coming in off a boat. You're not bringing your
Yeah, but you don't
18-foot whaler or
Right.
your 25-foot power boat over. It's a small tender. I would say under 10 feet is optimal. 10 and under or so, right?
And some of this, we'll see what happens too. I mean, we hope it'll all play out, and probably would, but if we don't have a dock by the spring, an extra dock, we can try it out. adjust from there. It's my thought.
So
Well,
you guys are
But
jumping.
our strong recommendation is that we actually pursue.
Correct.
And establish a dinghy
A
dock.
correct, an
And
actual.
it can't be a postage stamp, it's gotta be enough for some dinghies, right?
And
But
we think it should be where, near the work shed for limited docking?
That's my feeling. It should be over near it should be to the west of the fireboat,
And here would be
By the
the,
boathouse, kind of.
by the boathouse.
and the standard permit would be basically 40 feet long with a 10 by 10 foot dock.
Yeah, that's good.
So
That's what I
that,
was asking.
that would be about it.
You want to
That's
send
a
that
big dock.
around?
That's
That's big.
the
It's a big
standard,
dock.
that's a general permit for dock.
A lot of dinghies.
Okay, it's a lot of things.
But it
Yeah,
also
I
takes.
don't know if we're gonna
serious.
have that many
Big, but-
dinghies, but
Yeah, so,
In theory, if
What
you
do you got?
could
But if it's-
pop off of here and go up and the boathouse was completely renovated and had,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. even if
Bathrooms.
It's just a pavilion
Showers.
and a bathroom.
I think that's,
Bathroom key has to be.
I think that's too big,
It is probably.
I think it's.
I
right?
could shrink the line.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, but to
But yeah,
the,
just
to the
something
conversation
there.
is
Just
that
a
like,
float.
Well, it's
I also think that like if you look at where the fireboat is and that gangway, there used to be another
Yeah.
80 feet of dock.
Correct.
That
Oh, really?
continued towards the boathouse.
That's true.
And so there's plenty of room to have it right there and add a simple gangway or do a shared gangway that it breaks off.
Yeah,
There's
without,
plenty of water and plenty of depth and plenty of
without
room.
new pilings and expense, yeah.
and actually advantage, if there was one prior to there, you have a much easier time with deep bringing it back than starting brand new or something. But in either case, it's gonna take a year to get anything permitted probably, so that's why I like the idea, we try what we got and then keep aiming for several.
So, last thing, but who thinks that we should do a bill once suggested about using the current dock of the fireboat in the interim?
In the interview.
In-
I mean, I think you have to leave some of that open for people to be able to come in and pick up and drop off.
You still need a drop-off point, good point.
That's a
Good
little
point.
bit later, but yeah.
Yep. Yep.
What's
Absolutely.
access like to that dock as it stands? With the
That-
fireboat there, what's the access like right now?
It's always deep.
No, I mean, getting off the dock, getting onto land.
No, it's
There's a gangway.
It's a locked gate now.
Well, oh, yeah.
There's a gate?
There's a locked
Yeah.
gate.
Yeah, lock it.
Yep.
Newly installed.
Okay, who thinks that we should have a small, a dinghy dock for tie-up near the work shed or limited docking? All right, we're back to the trash receptacles and bathrooms.
Well,
They keep popping up.
That's really important there, though. We
Don't they
do need
keep
it there.
popping up everywhere?
I know,
That's an easy one, that's a.
but that's a no.
That's a yes.
That's a yes.
Yes, okay.
Gotta,
Consider expanding the dinghy dock to accommodate types of kayaks, stand-up paddle boards, dinghies, and the floats. I don't know that do we need to get
I don't think you
that
need
granular?
that. No, I think my problem was, and then you took care of it, is that it's not just a dinghy. It's anything, you know.
It's a small
smaller
watercraft, so we're just gonna
Watercraft,
say
smaller, anything that floats.
already covered.
So you can knock that out.
Tender type situation makes it very easy.
Yeah, I thought it would be great to put the kayaks inside, the paddleboards inside, so you don't have to look at the racks.
I agree, they're an eyesore, the racks.
I mean, I don't
And
know
they-
what shape the boathouse is from what you guys say.
I think we're talking here, though, on just quick
This is
going to the
This is
island.
during the day.
Yeah, this is during.
This is versus putting it,
Versus later on, which it does come up later. I think we have it in here, where we could store them inside there, or, I think that's later
It's
on.
the
That's
next
last
bullet
bullet?
point.
Yeah.
Next
I
bullet
think
point.
your
There it is, right
version's,
there.
your version's a little different, I think, than what we're looking at, but.
I like it because
It's
it's,
just in a table, it shouldn't be
it's an aesthetics thing.
otherwise, so.
And it's almost like if you replicate the town kayak racks at either of our beaches on Great Island, you'll be able to see them from anywhere in
Totally.
Great Island. They're, you know, big colored toys, it's awful. So to hide them in the boathouse would be really great.
So do we want to vote on that? Do we want to hide them in the boathouse, if possible?
Well,
I don't think that
Could be,
is
that's a
boat.
whole thing. No, I mean, that's like, are we gonna be renting kayaks? That's, if the answer to that is yes, then yes, put it in the boathouse. But if you're not doing a kayak rental, which I don't really think is totally necessary personally.
But it's done like at
Weed.
a Weed Beach, there's a firm that comes in and does the rentals.
Oh, that's
So
right.
you could just contract with them and say, you get 15 spaces.
Yeah, and
if somebody decides to do that, yeah.
there's going to be, I think from what I've seen, and we'll see what happens, but I think the parking's going to be pretty limited
Yeah.
on the island.
I'm pro kayak access, I'm anti seeing them on Great
Yeah.
that's right.
I
So
think
that's
just
what-
There's enough racks.
my recollection anyway of when we were in there is the number of kayaks that you would fit in that structure compared to what you have over at Pear Tree up and down, would be a tiny fraction of the kayaks, right? You're just not gonna fit that many in there and have.
I'm not sure you're right. I get more of a,
space.
I'm thinking you could actually put like almost all the racks at either of the beaches inside.
But here's my thought.
It's a huge space.
If you're renting them, not.
I hope
owning
they
them,
do something more clever and creative than storing kayaks in
I
that
agree.
beautiful building. Like, there's a
Or
lot of
you
his,
go behind it.
there's a lot of historic
But there's
value
a-
to that, and I think there's a lot of potential for it to be something special, not a shed for kayaks.
But there's a big competing spot for kayaks, not there, but over at the beach. The beach is much easier at low tide to slide kayaks in and out versus over at the other spot where it's rock and it's more difficult, and there's more traffic in there. So I think people are looking at that right now, not just us.
Or on the Scotts Cove side. That's
Possible.
also another suggestion.
Well, those little beach shacks, I don't remember what
So
they're called.
there's nothing wrong to recommend that maybe we think that might be a good spot for it, but we also should say it's also a good spot over at the beach area, too. I don't know
Maybe
how
the-
complicated we want to
Maybe
make
the
this.
recommendation is yes to kayaks, but we don't want huge amounts of them visible.
Carry in, carry out.
Right, and I think we,
But I don't
I
think.
think that's in here
there's gonna be-
somewhere else as well.
I'm not sure that
Why?
access is gonna be, just from what
Why
I've heard.
can't you say carry in, carry out? And,
Oh.
and you know what, if you can't get it off the roof of your car into the water, then tough
'Cause I don't
titties.
think that
Go
there's
to, go to
I'm not
Wheat
sure that
Beach,
there's
go to
gonna be
Pear
parking.
Tree.
I mean, it's true.
I just don't think there's gonna be parking.
So to go to Wheat Beach, go to Pear Tree, it can't be everything to everybody. You can't have
People are gonna say,
everything
"Oh."
on this island, including, you know, kayak rentals and concession stands and a Ferris wheel and everything, like,
I don't know, I have to say, like, I think, I really like the idea, because being a kayaker, I could never access over there.
I agree with
And
you.
I cannot lift up a kayak and put it on my roof.
Orange
And
Theory is a great thing. Go, you do some weights, you can
I
get in your
don't-
car.
It's not simple.
So what they do at Cove Park in Stanford, you can take your car over there, drop your kayak off for the season, and then you can't go in there anymore. And so it's always there, yours is always there. So you could have it over at the beach, behind that building that they're probably
But
gonna
you've
tear
seen
down.
what they did, like, you've seen people with Pear Tree, there's 1,000
I
kayaks
know,
over there.
I know.
And they do not get used.
Do you think it would be a good idea to put the kayaks right next to the eagle's nest? Just wondering.
You're asking for trouble. Oh,
You want to
You
run the
know,
rest of it? These
no,
are not
my
all
point is- my
suggestions, by
point-
the way.
no, no,
This is
no, no.
everybody's
Yeah,
I
suggestions.
know, I
I'm just
know that.
reading
We're
it
having
all
humor.
out.
obviously.
If
I'm
we
sorry.
have any
But I'm telling you,
kayaks,
like-
I'm sure they're trying to figure out how to create income. So if there's rental, if they want kayaks, they're either rental or not, and then you find out.
So what if it's just rental?
What if it's
If it's
just?
just rentals on that, that section, right?
And they don't find a better use for that, that's a great place to put it,
There are
right?
2 or 3 other locations in town that you
True.
can launch and keep your kayak, but if you just want to go down there and walk in and go for a paddle or go for a kayak, maybe those are the only ones that are there.
Yes, I agree
I
with
like
that. That
that.
was what I was
That-
thinking.
that's fine.
But Bill, you are someone who lifts his own kayak. So you can weigh in.
So the other thing is, one of the buildings that they don't know what to do with and probably gonna knock down over near the beach, because I like the 2 beach buildings, is where they had a squash court, right? I mean, you could knock that down, build some kind of a camo-looking thing that you can't see from the water, have racks in there, people can drag them right across there down the beach very simply, whether they're rentals or not. So there's a way to do that at that location.
I don't think all this needs to get solved
Okay.
at the outset. And if you look at Waveney Park, which is right around the corner from my house, which I go to all the time, I don't know when New Canaan bought Waveney Park, but it has evolved a lot over time. And they add new things, and they see how people use it, and there are changes made here and there. We're going to figure out how people want to use Great Island over time, and we're going to think about it very differently. I'm sure people will want to kayak. How exactly, that happens and in what form it needs to take, I don't think has to be figured out today.
I agree, but I think that if you sat in on any of these visioning meetings, they are figuring it out today. So this is your chance to have a voice and say in it now, and that the attitude that it'll figure it out, someone else is gonna figure it out for you if you don't
Yeah.
weigh in now.
I agree, because right now, on that, again, the survey, you take the survey, you see on there, they already talked about kayak, and all that, so they're already asking that question, which they should. But maybe we're a little more involved, they could say, what are some better places to put it? And give them a little hand on that, instead of them just going right there. That's all. I see your point too.
My recommendation at the beginning would just be kayak rentals only, out of one of those little beach shacks on the beach, carry in, carry out otherwise, if there has to be rentals.
I wouldn't.
The carry and carry out's really hard.
I
Most
want to
people
bring my
don't do
own
it.
kayak down there, and I want to take it out,
But you can do that too.
and might want to leave it there if I get a bigger one. You know, so you're going to have that kind of comment coming back.
Most people
Definitely
don't.
bring it in, but leaving it.
You can't leave it.
I think just give it a hard time.
I want to see it.
On the carry-in, most people just don't do that. I'm with a bunch of guys who throw their kayaks on the car and travel up and down the coast, but most people just don't do that. They have the sit-ons, they're heavy. You know, my kayak's carbon Kevlar, it's light, and it just, people don't do that. So if you don't allow kayaks to be there in some sort of racks, you won't have all these young families going there with their kids. And I agree the racks are obnoxious, so I want some way of hiding them or keeping them minimal. I've disliked how they've kept on expanding at our beaches. So maybe it's just 2 or something, but I think for lottery, I think you have to allow for it somehow.
That's fair.
So, I think what I'm hearing is,
No boathouse.
oh, kayaks, town-owned, but
Sensitivity.
hidden, sensitive to natural beauty, keep them
Is the
covered up.
squash court in bad shape that that building has to be torn down, or?
They're saying that you can't get inside to tell. They could repurpose it for something else too.
Where's the squash?
It's not so bad that it's,
Oh, it's by the beach.
Right behind the
house,
beach.
Right behind the beach house and the changing house.
it's just a big rectangular box.
It looks pretty
No, I
good.
do think it'd be helpful if we agreed on a good launching or ranking of launching places, because I think they're trying to figure that out, and if we have special knowledge about that, we should weigh in on
Where's the parking gonna be?
That's
Where-
what I-
That's
that.
gonna
But
be,
if they're
that's the
town
hang.
owned and they're on site, right? Already there.
So if you could drive down there and drop it off and park someplace else in the mall, that's still, so the parking is, I agree, key, but if you could drop it there and then move back.
So I mean, that little beach is a dear
The beach
place.
is the best.
Yeah,
Because
it's just
it's
that you
always-
have to traffic in there.
There's always water there. If you go down the north side, you're gonna get trapped at low tide, there's mud, you can't even get in.
It's ideal for families.
And it's less cumbersome than being further in the Ziegler's Cove.
It's really more welcoming.
More welcome. You may have boats that'll come up on the beach because they legally can do that, so, but that happens at Fish Island. People are used to lots of activity there.
Make a section of it on the dock that we're
On
adding,
that
on that.
platform?
So if the fireboat's here and the bulkhead's here, just have that long dock there, and half of it's dinghies and the other has like a little ramp that goes in. You can stick your kayak in. You gotta carry it down the dock, but, you know.
That is high water.
Bring it
That top spot is good water too, right? It's
Protect
basically
it.
anything along there that's got the good water, whether it's too commercial there versus not, I don't know.
Or maybe you split it up. You have some by the fireboat
Do
and
both.
some by the beach.
Just suggest both work. Yeah. The north side doesn't work.
North
It's
side
too
doesn't
shallow.
Okay. Consider staffing to monitor dock activity during high traffic times. Oh, wait, sorry, I jumped ahead. Do we agree, like, did we want to suggest rentals? Or at least town-owned? They can decide if they want to rent them or not.
Only rentals.
Yeah, I like it. I think it's worked well at
I'm okay with that.
at Weed. I think it's been a good program.
Yeah, they should do that at
What,
Parachute.
only
Yeah, but you can bring your own,
Yeah,
anything.
yeah.
So that's the question. Do you bring your own or only rentals?
No, I think both.
So,
Kayaks without beating it to death.
yeah, I think what we decided was
Rentals, yes.
Only rentals?
No,
Yeah.
I don't think only rentals.
No.
Okay, you gotta be able to bring your both, you have to have both.
But you can't store your own overnight, right?
I
No, I was
Your own is in and out,
I
or
think
No,
you're
I
saying?
was thinking that was too hard. That would preclude many families from
You have to
enjoying
have
it.
that too.
So
Rental's okay,
If-
hidden storage.
if we have rentals,
In storage.
then
Either
does
at
that
the
mean we
beach.
have to, are we saying hire a person
And
or
or-
hire a team of people?
They come with their own,
Dingy dock.
they're like a consignee, they'll come in, like Weed Beach.
Weed Beach,
It's
And that works.
It works there.
it's gone for years. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I don't know how much the town gets off,
You're gonna do this.
but maybe
You mean
not.
sign?
You can just send it to me. I'll-
Inadequate signage?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's okay.
So, okay, all right, and it can either be, there'll be some town-owned, and then people will be allowed to bring their own in if they,
I wouldn't call it town-owned, I'd call it rentals, because the town's never gonna buy it.
Concession. Yeah.
Yeah.
listen, I think they could ask people to donate, and there'd be a lot of people who would donate their kayaks.
Honestly, they should take whatever's left at the end of the season, though.
Yes,
Well, the
yes, that's
next-
my
The
thought.
400 extra ones next to the boat club?
Right,
Goes to
right,
the
let's,
dock.
Good
yeah,
start.
if nobody moves it off the dock, it's Weed Beach,
It's
and,
ours.
and the Road Bay Beach, yeah, they should just move it on over.
Donate one.
Okay, boat access management, designated drop-off location, current dock and force rules prevent extended boat types. Monitor how much use and any problems for building an additional dock. I think we all agree we wanted an additional dock, didn't we?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
this is like short-term, I think you'd say, we'd try it out.
Um,
Enforcing rules is gonna be, I don't even, when you put that in there, because I don't know who's gonna enforce it, so that's the hard thing. You put up a sign, you say, 2 hours minute maximum.
Yeah.
2
That's
hours.
all you can do, yeah.
But
Drop
you give it-
off,
you give it a
pick
try
up,
and see what
5
happens.
minutes.
Get all those people who used to be at the swap shop 5 days a week to go over.
Right, so you have to sink a boat every now and then, that's the way it goes.
so do we wanna
The orange face.
That's good.
designate a drop-off? Well, the drop-off is gonna be by the dock, right? I'm not sure we need to
Right, I would give it.
you could go enforce rules.
No, I'm not enforcing, I would say, we'll have enforce rules, because it's just asking for trouble, just see what, and then we'll see what happens.
Yeah, okay. Consider staffing to monitor dock activity during high times. Well, this sort of falls into, what's gonna happen in the summer? Are they gonna have a lifeguard? Are they gonna have, this is a lot of, there could be a lot of high school students hired for this stuff, right? July and August, I don't know. How do we feel about recommending hiring staffing to monitor dock activity?
I don't think it needs to happen yet. If it becomes a problem, then it could be looked at down the road, but you put all these people in place and it's not an issue, or it's just
Yeah.
like,
I agree with that.
Doesn't, not necessarily,
like you go to dinghy docks and all these other harbors, right? And there's a section that is for tie-up, and there's a section for drop-off and unloading, like touch and goes.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Like-
we should make note of that we want both, just make space.
You want what,
touch and go and
tie up?
extended.
And it doesn't have to be the biggest area in the world for the touch and goes. It's like, you're able to pick your friend up or drop them off or do whatever, and then you go back out to the mooring, or you go anchor or whatever.
And the tie-up is for under 10 feet, right?
Tie-up is under for 10 feet, and I think the touch and go is like 10 minutes only, or 5 minutes only. It's something like that that prohibits people from establishing themselves and, hanging out and,
Yeah, that's the real
it's
danger, right?
touch and go.
So you got that, so 5 to 10 minutes. All right, limit boat access to reduce environmental and safety risks. I'm not sure what,
That's the same thing.
okay,
You just talked about it.
We're
I think this is
encouraging
all
boat
the same.
access.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't think we should include that one.
use the town dock at Darien Boat Club and the town dock at Great Island. I think this is Kevin's comment. I think he wanted the fireboat moved.
That is not likely to
No,
happen.
that is not going to happen.
Yeah, so I think that's really,
The boat club cannot, there's
There's no
There's
way.
actually history behind this.
Yeah, we
At-
talked
at one-
about it,
yeah, At one
Okay.
point, they tried to.
yeah.
Oh, really?
There.
Okay.
Well, with the 27-foot whaler, which they no longer have, we said under no
No, they got 900
circumstances.
horsepower on
Yeah,
that.
the 34-footer can't accommodate it.
And I think that
Okay.
when we had the sergeant, I forget his name, come in, he didn't think that was a good idea, so I'm not sure why.
right,
Allow the
so-
hardship, the option to relocate, okay, that's it.
No,
So we
same
know-
thing.
yeah.
Pulling that up.
Limit, okay, we already talked about this one. I'm not sure we need to get into.
Yeah.
All right, dinghies.
So we really don't need, we've already talked about prior on the dinghy.
Boat access by dinghy restrictions. Okay, now this is a different one. Boat access by dinghy restricted to Darien residents or out of town visitors with a pre-purchased Darien town beach pass, similar to the land-based beach access policies.
Too complicated.
So I
You
think
need
this-
someone who would be, you'd have to have someone at the dock check.
So this goes into, I think, what the comment was about Todd's Point, right?
Yes.
So if you're a resident of Greenwich, you have access to Todd's Point. You have to have a valid driver's license, and you have to get a town card that is valid every year that you have to go to the town and get. If you want to
This is
bring.
by boat?
No, this is just by land.
Oh, okay.
If
How
you,
about boat?
well, I will get to that in a second, okay? But if you are a town resident, and let's say your children are visiting, and you want to take your kids to the beach, but they're not town residents, you have to get them passes. So Greenwich has a very shut off visitor policy.
And that might happen here by road.
So Greenwich has been sued a number of times, and I'm sure Lori can tell you, but it's a difference between a park and do you know what the other one is?
No, and that's a question that's been circling in my head for a long time.
Yep.
Park is one thing. I don't know that this has been designated a park.
It
Yeah,
hasn't.
Does not.
And
Okay,
so
so-
that, there's some limitation on what you can do for some of that. Like, Greenwich has faced a lot of pushback. They're still able to do it because I think they stopped
they're
taking
not a park.
funding. And they're basically like, we can do whatever we want.
Oh, yeah, because once you take state funding.
Once you take
then
state
you-
funding, you know, like Sherwood Island, right? Anyone can drive in there with a Connecticut license plate because you pay park fees as part of your registration, which takes you into that.
So.
Boat access by pre-purchase passes would be extremely hard to monitor.
So why don't we not talk about whether legitimately we allow anybody to come from out of town and let somebody else decide that? We're just giving them a way to do that, to get onto the place, and let them decide. If they don't want out-of-towners in there, all right, well, in town, how are you gonna handle it?
I think
Not
that's
us.
going to become a broader policy for how Darien treats Great Island, and if it's accessible through your beach sticker, right? Because to get into Weed Beach or Pear Tree, you have to buy a beach sticker, you know? So maybe that will dictate how people get in and out of it, but I don't think you can restrict it by water.
Yeah, until they make a
So, yeah, so we're providing how a boater can get in there. We're not differentiating whether you're a resident or not and let them figure it out.
Correct.
Well, that's why I think the dinghy dock is a key thing as a filter. Not too big a dinghy dock, and you have to have a dinghy. And I'm not trying to, throw up the barricades, but that means you have to have a dinghy, and you have to think about, you want to go to shore, and how many people can you bring, and it
But a
limits it.
13-foot whaler doesn't have a dinghy.
Can I also
But-
throw out there the fact that, Grant, you talked about going into other harbors and other towns. Is there anywhere that you go into that you have to have a town-sanctioned day pass to go into?
I have not experienced
I
that.
can't imagine how it'd be enforced.
I can't,
Yeah.
it seems really
The only place,
draconian.
the only place I think of that is when you get like in the Newport and you don't go to a town dock. There's lots of little docks, and if you tie up on one that's not a town dock, a dinghy dock, you'll have someone yell at you, or they'll set you afloat or
Private
something.
property, of course.
Private property,
It's
right.
like, that's
Should be
like,
doing
Right,
that
it's,
though.
it's like,
that's like going to a house in the bay and tying up to their dog and be like, sorry, man, I thought this was public.
got a dinner reservation, and you gotta
No,
make
man,
it.
that's,
So,
sorry, Bill.
So this is, it's just typical to have nice towns on Long Island Sound have dinghy docks, and you can typically
Yeah.
go in them and walk around, and
We would be a real outlier.
We would be an
if were
outlier,
like,
yeah.
You need a pass to.
So can I go back up to the fourth bullet point for a sec, under this same section?
What was,
Start
can you read it out,
with
because
sound.
we have Bill and I have a little different.
Yeah, use the town dock at the Darien Boat Club and the town dock at the Great Island.
That's for the, I think they meant the,
For the
It's
fire.
not even a
the fire
sentence.
boat.
We weren't sure why it's in there, but he wrote it out.
Strike it.
I think that
Yeah,
you're
we
trying to
said
say,
no.
don't even do access from the water. We have two places already that you can do it. I think that's what's trying to, that's what
Oh.
I'm reading.
Oh, maybe that's what
It
you
shouldn't
said.
be a point of access. You already have two
Oh.
places for that.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know if that's it, because you can't use the dock at the Darien Boat Club if you're not a member.
No, the
So
dock.
it's not a town dock.
The
or is he
boat
saying,
ramp.
he says you,
The
maybe you
town
can't come
dock,
up to the beach?
the boat ramp behind the boat club.
Maybe he's saying you can't come up to the beach.
Well, since we don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Just strike it.
All right, so,
So we're crossing
so
out.
we're not gonna restrict out-of-town visitors with a pre-purchase, okay. Provide a map of
Yeah,
Great
I don't
Island
think-
at the dock and beach area for boat visitors. If you could
Mr.
get,
Cavers.
What was that?
That was your comment.
Which one, sorry?
Oh my, come on, pay
this is
attention.
the
Last one.
information map.
The
Oh, yeah,
map
that's
when you
right,
get off
map of
your
Great
boat.
Island. That was mine,
I
yes.
like it. Anybody else like it? You don't like it? Especially if you're out of town, if you're allowed to get in there.
Why can't we provide Grant's trailhead information right at the head of the dock as well?
Sure.
Just have it
Yeah,
be for both pedestrians and boaters.
It's the
QR
same thing, I
code.
think.
Do in your QR code, just a map
And a QR.
with a designated, with all the
We can
information on
compromise
it. You either come up off the dinghy ramp or you're walking in just off.
I think
I'm
it's
gonna be
great.
nice and not say what I'm thinking.
I think it's a great idea, have some kind of,
Are you an
Piece
investor in
there.
flow code?
but anyway, everybody else.
You know, you want the kids to like, be on board with what's happening.
Okay.
They
plus
only read their
plus
phones. They
QR
look-
codes, not standalone.
Okay, so
I think the point of
are we saying yes to the map?
Well, make sure
Yes.
everybody's on board.
Is it at the dock and the beach area, or just the
No,
dock?
just a map, a trailhead
Just-
map.
Just at the dock?
At the dock.
At the top of the dock.
Wherever the dinghies
pedestrians
are,
walk by as well.
wherever people will access.
All right,
Is
it's
there-
not, it's 9:05, so.
What do you got?
Is there any thought, that, I mean, the dinghy dock sounds like a great idea. We already know how popular Ziegler's Cove is. Now we're throwing out the welcome mat. How much more traffic is this gonna bring to Ziegler's Cove? It's already overwhelmed on weekends.
I feel like the more people who are on the moorings are gonna come in to shore.
But like, just like what made Ziegler's Cove so attractive was that article they ran in Soundings Magazine many, many years ago. The secret was out, and then all of a sudden it became the hottest place, in Connecticut to come on a weekend. Now the island's open and we have a dinghy dock. Something to think about. I don't have an answer,
You got a point.
but how much traffic is that, how much more traffic is that going to generate to that small
You
cove?
can only fit 5 pounds of stuff into a 5-pound bag. Right after that, it has to go somewhere else, right? And so it will.
I think
And
the
it'll
other-
overflow into Scotts Cove. It'll overflow around the front. People will go to Fish Island. People will go somewhere else, but there's just limited capacity, right?
I think the other thing that is part of the consideration, to your point, is if you don't have a designated spot, what's gonna happen?
Yeah.
They're gonna come, and they're already there, like, there are people hanging out there on the weekends, they're gonna have Uber Eats delivered, right?
Well, wasn't even gonna bring that up, but that is something
You're gonna have
that
people
has
get
to be
injured
concerned,
'cause they're
because
trying to,
you're
like-
now
How
opening
how
up
are they gonna
access
get Uber Eats out to
from
their
land to
boat?
the water for, what's
They
that?
just have it delivered to the dock. and
Have it
then
delivered to the dock, and you can go get it.
But somebody has to come into the dock. They're not gonna come into the dock without a permit to get in. There's,
One permit.
well, you can't come into
We don't know
a
that yet.
beach. I'm sorry?
We don't know
It's
that
on the
yet.
survey, actually, they asked a question about rideshare and things like that. There may be no access to, unless you, like,
You
have
have
a
if
wheelchair.
you're gonna have some kind of sticker, most likely, to get in. So the Uber Eats guy's not gonna have a sticker.
Yeah, but you get pizza delivered down to, Pear Tree all the time, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, they go right through.
and people sitting at the boat
And how
club every
does-
Friday
and-
night getting pizza
I'll say as a
delivered, right?
frequent person in Ziegler's Cove,
It's
I
a-
have seen
it's-
pizza
it's a-
delivered already.
It's already happening.
For years,
Private.
and it's been private, so
Yeah.
it's gonna happen. If you give them a place to go, at least you're containing them into that spot. I agree.
I also
will
think
it
it's
bring more?
safer. It's gonna be a safety issue if there's no dock, like how people are gonna come with those rocks over there and.
Beach.
It has the virtue of not having Uber Eats go to the fireboat dock.
One of the things, John,
Yeah.
that when, you may or may not have been there when Jay-Z addressed us about this, he said he wants to get, he wants more usage in the same way you want more usage. Just leave it, get people out there as soon as possible. You want people to use it.
Well, was he talking about the island or the cove?
The entire thing.
Entire
The
thing.
entire thing, yeah. People are there to use it. And then somebody's got to enforce, no more than 3 boats on a mooring.
Yeah, and there was a lot of like talk about people want to do water sports in and around the island. That's like, it was accessibility, usage, water sports was very high volume.
I brought it up as a cautionary note. I hope I'm wrong.
Right.
But I have to raise it, that's all.
And it may well turn out to that, and then something's gonna have to give.
Yeah.
I thought
Get
it's,
rid of the dock.
I'm not trying to,
Pardon me?
Get rid of the dock.
Cut it loose.
You turn it into a fishing pier.
Fill the place in.
I guess, I think it's good you brought up that worry, it's made me pause and think. But I sort of think people get on the boat and come to Ziegler's to be on the water, and I don't anticipate like they come to Ziegler's and then jump off all on the island. I just don't know if it'll be.
I don't know. I don't
It's
know.
one of those things we'll have to see what happens. It may
Yeah.
well be that they go once and they've seen it, or, then they bring their friends, say, you need to see it. I don't think we can predict what's gonna happen.
But to me, that filter of the small dinghy dock, not the large dinghy dock, is a key.
But we're not gonna have one initially anyway, so we'll see. We'll just be
Well,
using.
you know what happens with a
Small
small
is
dinghy dock.
good.
There's 3 dinghies where there should be 1. And they're climbing
Yeah, it's-
three
Yeah,
dinghies.
It's always inventive, always
But
inventive.
they're on 30.
I know,
Pardon me?
okay.
But they're not 30.
Yeah.
All right, moving on.
Number 6.
Yeah, okay, so number 6, beach access and swimming facilities, designated swimming area with lifeguards during high use periods.
Absolutely not. There's no place that's even remotely appropriate for it. There's that little beach there. It's tiny, it's rocky, there's a concrete and
So you think no
Structure.
swimming? You should prohibit swimming?
Well, at your
I
own
mean,
risk.
people are gonna do whatever they want, but I think you can't have a town designated swimming area.
This is where you post your signs, no lifeguard on duty.
Yeah, exactly.
Swim at your own risk.
What do you think?
Well,
Yeah, let's-
like I said, the swim area, they've already designated what I would consider to be the swim area to not be one. So where are they gonna be swimming? Where they always have, in and out through the boats as you come in.
So in some ways, this will give them another spot to do it, that if they want to, on the beach.
Yeah.
I'd like to swim off that beach.
I mean, some people might be
Jumping
swimming
off the rocks.
I
People are going to be jumping off the rocks.
You just don't need a
That's
lifeguard.
Utopia.
All right, how about the second one, though, underneath that?
Wait, before we move on, what do we decide? No? Are we doing a no?
So you're on risk.
All right.
Swim at your own risk.
Consider removing the offshore beach retaining wall hazard for swimming and okay, so
I think absolutely.
There you go.
Get a barge in there
do we need a
and, get a
permit
barge in
for
there and
that?
haul it out.
Yeah, that can all be obtained.
It's actually a charted item. It's actually a charted of structure. And now you're picking at stuff that's below the high water mark. So it's not really yours to mess with.
No, we can't do it.
Yeah.
But I think Deep would go for that, myself personally. Now, I'm no expert, and I don't think it would get us into the harbor management plan.
Definitely do it, but it's just not a question of,
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we
hey,
should ask
Department
for
of
it.
Public Works, go
and-
rip it out. I don't know if it's that easy. I don't think you can do it.
I totally think we should rip it out.
Can you,
Actually, they
can
could
we
do it if
change
they
this wordage a little bit? It's say like considering removing that, or in the meantime, mark it with a caution string, right? Not as a swimming thing, but as a cautionary,
Well, the plan is to put a underwater hazard buoy
Okay.
over
Okay.
there.
oh, that's good.
Yeah. I also recommended there should be terrestrial, well, I know people hate signs, but I was asked for a solution while we got the hazard buoy. There should be terrestrial-based signs facing out towards the water, not a water-based marker.
You really think Deep would
Just
have
say consider removing
trouble
the
with
beach retaining wall hazard
people
for
restoring the
safety.
natural contours in the
No,
bottom?
you just have to go through the process. And you make it denied.
I don't
You
know
gotta go
what
through
they
the
would
process.
think, but I think it's not on town property, so.
Yeah, I get you.
Yeah,
No water.
You gotta go through the channels.
Yeah.
No pun
Consider.
intended.
Or you just whack it and the next morning you see who objects. I mean,
At night, you can do anything.
Sorry,
I
that's-
don't think you should do that.
Okay, so, the next one is about swim restriction buoys to manage swimmer and boater interactions, but it sounds like we don't want to do that because that's sort of just the same as the one up above, right?
Yeah, it seems complicated.
Explore feasibility of both boat and swimming coexisting as done at Fish Island. I guess it's gonna happen whether, if we're not,
it already happens.
It already happens.
Yeah,
It's already a
so
thing.
we don't even need that.
no.
Just people just realize that it's gonna take place.
Oh, you wanna have a swim ladder
Oh, yeah.
at the dock?
So, I threw that in. So, I'm out in my boat, I don't have anything, I can go take it to shore, but I gotta pee. So I swim over to the dock, because there's that porta potty.
Well, I have another suggestion.
Do that?
I'm on my kayak, I fall in, I'm trying to get off, and I need to get out of the water.
Oh, that's clean.
That's why your
That's
kayak
clean.
shouldn't be a great island. I'm just kidding.
I can't, anyway.
There may already be a swim ladder there probably is.
I
because-
think there is a
Because
ladder.
if you fell off
Yeah.
the fireboat, and you can't get in the fireboat, you come and swim.
I think.
I would
say
just,
there is one.
maybe we ought to just take this off.
I would bet there's some sort of regulation that there has to be some sort of ladder for safety, for like getting a human out of there for egress, like that you fell in, not that you were trying to swim in to use the property or anything like that, but like if you look at all the docks around yacht clubs and
They all
marinas
have
and
them.
everything like that, they all have them. And I think that
There's probably.
it's probably a legality issue over anything else, because if someone did fall in off of that dock, whether they're supposed to be there or not, or whether they're permitted or not, if they can't get out, they drown.
It's not like there's any.
Yeah.
It's a bigger issue.
Yes.
So don't provide a ladder for.
Only for a
swimmers.
resident though.
Only for a resident with your card. Yeah.
It's a safety ladder, not a convenience for swimmers ladder.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so number 7, coastal resilience and conservation, coastal resilience planning. Hire experts to conduct a resilience survey for protecting the coastline, shellfish beds, and surrounding waters.
I'm not totally sure what that means.
Well, is that what's happening?
No, it's not a coastal resilience survey. They're doing a, they're
Isn't this-
there to determine the usage of the island. They are taking into account ecology and stuff, but I sat in on the meeting where the ecologists gave a quite fulsome presentation, and then they sort of just moved on and sort of disregarded the suggestions. So, this is a pointed comment about, these are our coastal resources. Should there be, if we're spending money on consultants, should there be an extra set of eyes thinking about coastal resilience? There's a couple areas that are flood zones, like that area behind the boat dock is a zone, I don't remember.
Northeast of the
Yeah,
stables is a
and-
zone, and then the marshlands is a zone.
Yeah, there's a bunch of flood zones, and there's a lot of hardscape because of the ledge there, but, this is a way to look at it and say, how do we make sure that, with sea level rise, this island is still there in 30 years?
I like this as part of a bigger picture I had and I know we've got this 100-foot buffer, nobody can do anything.
Yeah,
Through the years, permits will break through that, it would seem to me, for various causes. To really have this whole coastal zone be like a protection zone, and that this is part of the thing, and a stewardship plan is part of the thing.
yeah.
And so like the whole island, excuse me for being cynical, the whole island could get wrecked by successive boards of selectmen who want to do pet projects and town residents who like a pet project, and I can see how that just keeps on marching forward, like in Waveney marching forward, tastefully, but at some point it may flip to non-tastefully. But the coastal zone is can't be violated, because you establish it like as a protection zone, it has a resilience plan that's going on, it has an environmental survey that's going on, and that's the part that intersects with the water, and it goes inland a little bit. And that's why I like the idea of declaring something and having the town recognize that. And then there's a bunch of things which fall into that, like this.
Yeah. I feel like it'd be a good investment. I mean, we spent $85,000 on this piece of property.
Million.
Yeah, sorry, million.
Million.
Seems like too much. And we're going to spend it probably another many, many more. Throw a number out there. This seems like an important thing to invest in, to retain the beauty and that it still exists, to understand how to do that going forward.
I think it falls in line with the idea of having it like a limited watershed, no fertilizer kind of thing, like.
Well, that would inform a lot of those decisions.
Yeah, and these are like
We
that-
had an expert come
You
in.
could have some smart practices put in place to ensure that the usability of the island is there for years
Yeah.
to come.
So it seems to me you could probably just back up under number one if you
Yeah.
were
Yeah, as an
reorganizing,
overriding
making it part of it.
principle.
Yes.
Right.
Because we want our grandkids to have clean water and at least one part of our coastline not built up with private docks and boat lifts.
Private docks are great. It's awesome. You ever been on a private dock?
This is his last meeting.
But Grant, what about
Yeah, by the way,
boat lifts?
this is
That's
Grant's
really-
last
This is his
meeting,
last
so feel
meeting.
free
You ever been
to
on
say
one?
what you-
Boat lift?
Yeah. You ever had your boat up on one? It's fantastic.
We were in Florida. We
He
saw
won't be
some-
back.
Put a little grenade in here and walk
They're
out.
great.
They could put your boat on the boat.
I know, they're wonderful.
All right, back on track.
Why don't you get one?
Okay.
Because I don't have
All
a place to
right.
land on the water.
Bill, you kind of talked about the next one, establish a formal zone to monitor and protect the coastline. So you're saying basically formalize the 100-foot setback?
Yeah,
Or
and
more.
I guess formalize it, so if you look on the maps of like, I think there's 5 ecological zones, maybe they're not ecological zones, they're 5
Yep.
usage zones or designations on the initial purchase acquisition maps, and one of them is a coastal zone.
Yes.
And that to me is the most special part of the island, and the one that, you literally could see that not being wrecked because people can't be on the rocks, and they can't, unless they're building things, unless they're trying to pave into it or create boardwalks on it, you can't get to it. So in some ways, it's out of sight, out of mind, except when you're on the water, in which case it's the best part of the island. And
So that was one of the questions on today's survey that came out. Do you want a boardwalk along the shore? Yes or no, or?
yeah, and
So
that
it'll
kills
be
me.
curious to see
That's to me
what
having
the
some,
survey results are.
yeah, I mean, look at the boardwalk in Newport. I mean, it's like I kayak a lot around Newport, and it's just beautiful, but not when you're around that boardwalk and all you see is like, built up cement works. I know it's beautiful people walking on the boardwalk.
Yeah, because there's 2 sides to that.
But you can do it in
Access.
different ways with just points that people go and they can, discrete point on a promontory point where they can see left and right.
I think that's what the consultant talked about, having a boardwalk so that people weren't walking through the sensitive areas, and then having like a little promontory out to a view. So you weren't inundated with boardwalk the whole way around when you're out looking from the water.
Did anyone see the Manresa link I sent around? I know you did, but
Yeah,
there's some
great.
visuals in their presentation of like an actual boardwalk, like above the marshland. So like you are sort of with nature,
Yeah.
but it's not a huge overwhelming structure, but it's a way that you can like walk along there and kind of be in that area.
It's certainly a
They did it over at
compromise.
Sheffield Island.
Where so?
If you go back into the woods, there's boardwalk back there, I believe.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not saying it can't be done somewhere.
Right.
I mean, like, I like the idea of a boardwalk in the northeast marsh area, because it can get people out and seeing that, otherwise you sort of just see it from afar.
Yeah.
It would drive some birds away though, so you want to like limit it a bit, but.
I think it's an important point, but I also think that anything you want to do within that buffer zone is going to get highly speculated and requires a coastal site plan review and approval by our local DNC. So it's there, in my opinion. Somebody's going to be protecting it. You have
I'm
to,
not
you have to go to court.
I'm not sure that everybody has the same
Yeah.
perspective on, Bill, you could speak to this a little bit.
Yeah.
See.
But EPC has no jurisdiction on saltwater, so you lose that one.
No, but for the state. I'm
But the
saying-
state would have to.
Yeah.
The state would have to.
Anything you want to do in that zone
Put their piece in it.
is going to have to go to the
Well,
state.
is
Well,
there an overall, this is, a statement of purpose for Great Island? There must be a statement of purpose.
Well, they're trying to define
No,
that.
Yeah.
I don't think there is.
But one of the
they're
things you
working on
might
it.
ask is that some of the things that you want for conservation reasons be put into some kind of statement of purpose.
I like what you're saying a lot, yeah.
And so how that, that might be one of those things that would be a good step back, because we're trying to run as fast as we can.
Right.
And a statement of purpose, why did we buy Great Island? We bought it for
Yeah.
posterity. We didn't buy it for ourselves per se. We bought it for the long-term use of Darien residents to be close to nature, and
Yes.
so there's got to be some kind of statement of purpose. I mean,
I think they're trying to.
asking Monica that, or asking
Yeah.
the folks who lead this whole
I
thing would
think
be a
they're
good
trying to
idea.
figure it out. I'm not sure that, I don't.
Some number of the
Exists?
survey questions, did everybody do that second survey?
No, I have not done it yet.
Yeah,
Some number of those
Yeah, so let's see what
questions give those answers, like, do you want sports? Do you want it to remain unchanged? And they give about 10 different flavors of things that you can pick. And it seems to me that will be the source of the town's purpose statement, because theoretically, they're going to try and satisfy.
I would ask Monica. I mean, aren't you guys meeting with them anyway after?
We will eventually, yes.
Well, what about, to Rob's point, that we suggest a statement of purpose with regard to the coastal zone, to the protection and conservation of the coastal zone?
I think it's a great idea, actually.
Would you mind writing it for us, please?
I'll give someone a try, yeah.
Thank you. I think it's a good idea.
Good
Okay.
idea, Rob.
Yeah.
And this sort of goes into it, limit access point to maintain debris cleanup through a stewardship plan. I do think, and this was brought up by the consultants, environmental stewardship, and I suggested to them that you need to do an environmental stewardship plan at the get-go to know what you have and what you'll lose with each change you make. And so I think that's, I
Like a
personally.
baseline or something?
Yes, yep.
Are they
And
doing
you
it?
can quantify it, there's a lot of little calculators out there that you can quantify the value of, you can quantify the value of an oak tree. So, I think it goes into the conservation, coastal zone protection. We've already talked about the next one. You want to start? Okay, you want to start the next one?
We're going into fishing? So someone had a comment, limit shore fishing to specific designated areas to manage activity and minimize environmental impact. Is that possible? I wonder, or are people just going to fish where they can and
Just feels like overreach to me.
yeah, I mean, still a lot of people fish by boat, but you do have the opportunity now, I'm sure. And I think the bigger question may be, night fishing and all that, but I don't think we're going to get involved with that off the shore and to shut it down. But yeah, I feel the same way about if they're going to fish, let them fish where they're going.
It's an existing problem with all the other town beaches, people come in and fish off the rocks and jetties and things. It seems to me it's just an extension of the town's policing of that or whatever.
I operate a government-regulated ship terminal, and people are outside the fence on the rocks. They go out and look at it. There's huge signs. There's a huge ship in the dock, and they don't care. So,
And for them, that's the recreation you really want to do.
No, but it's also
good
food.
black fishing there.
It's food. I mean,
Yeah.
There's a lot of Hispanic populations.
Yeah, they're all
You'll see in the early morning off Stanford Darien, who are fishing for food. It's intense.
But you're saying it's a problem for Darien. Why is it a problem?
Oh,
What if people want to,
so-
in Darien
well-
want to go fishing?
That's not my comment.
Oh, okay.
I think it's,
I'm just
I think it's
trying
flips.
to
I think
wrap my head around why.
safety's one thing,
Yeah.
and then I think that there's a worry of too much access, but I don't necessarily agree with that.
But is that any different than a dinghy dock for access?
You have to have a boat to, in a dinghy dock.
So what do we think about this one? Do we need
Surprised
it?
I keep on it.
I don't think so.
Everybody okay with getting rid of it?
Okay.
Oh, but the water trail.
I'm gonna let you, Bill, you can do the next.
You know, the water.
I love it.
I love it.
doesn't want the water
trail?
It's
I'd
it's sort
love
of in a
that.
special category, though. I don't, does
It's
it,
already gotten big review in the, it's being pushed through already, so I think
how does it fit with the commission? People seem to like the idea, but is it something that this commission
we still need to say it.
pushes?
It's watercraft access.
Unless somebody's
Skip
got a
over
problem.
the
No, I
trash
think it's a
cleanup
great
section.
Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
what
guys.
is it?
David's like, what are you talking
I don't,
about?
no, I'm not, poo-poo. I don't really know what, explain what it is.
Well, to establish a water trail, so to formally design and create pathways around the island that people could have a little map to and could have fun doing, because they might go and
This
see a
is
certain
in the
rock
water or on
formation.
the land?
No,
In the water.
in the
Oh,
water.
that's Bill.
With kayaks, stand-up paddleboards.
If you have no imagination, we got one. We got a trail. A way to go see the skies.
And so part of that is recreation, part of it's appreciation, and then part of it's stewardship, because if you have a focus of it, the Great Island perimeter being a water trail, you think it's special and you try to keep it pristine and nice and natural for people wanting to use it as a water trail. So it serves a couple purposes.
What are you doing that doesn't exist today?
First of all, you're declaring it, you're creating a map, pathways. So this is geared to people who, are scared to go down to the water, which is most young families and who have young kids. And you're giving them a way, a thing that says, hey, take a kayak out around and you'll see some interesting things. And you can have, let's say, on the northward one, 10 items that you look for, like a scavenger hunt, for example. And then again, part of the thing is a stewardship plan where if there's a water trail, it'd be nice to have maybe the nature center involved, maybe high school kids involved, coming down once a week and doing their own paddles around to make sure there's no trash, or to document things, or undertake science projects. All of a sudden you have a whole bunch of things that could be associated with a concept called the water trail, which didn't exist before.
Has it been done in other places? Is this?
Yeah, can I name a successful one or what? No, but if there is, I've seen a couple of them. There is a site on the, is it the Connecticut River Conservancy online, which has like dozens and dozens of them, and I think they've just been sort of done hastily, but some of them are bigger and more formal. But I don't have some great examples, but I have been on a couple.
I mean, I don't imagine it being much different than like a hiking trail. When you go to a park like you were going this weekend, like you can go this loop or this loop or this loop, and here's this place you can check out, and here's this place you can check out.
And once you get some people liking it, they say, I saw trash there last week.
Yeah.
Let's have somebody go out once a week, and it gets a focus on this coastal protection zone. And
I think it also is very I think it's interesting intellectually to draw people down to the water and to show them something different through from a different perspective.
Yeah, to
Maybe
me,
a
the
little
most,
bit of a crown jewel for Great Island to have.
Connecticut
something
water
like that,
trails, they're there.
You know,
is it Connecticut River Conservancy?
just
Yeah,
call them.
yes.
All right, let's vote on it.
Where can I paddle in
Who wants
Connecticut?
the water trail district? There we go.
I still don't even know what it is.
Perfect, that's what we do here.
It's on Google.
Yeah, okay, yeah. All right.
Didn't sound bad, whatever.
There's no signs.
Bill, keep going, just
Oh, I had
tighten it
more.
up.
You want any more? Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think I'll.
Oh, the boardwalk, he just talked about the boardwalk, didn't he?
Yeah, I think the boardwalk's a good idea. I really worry about how it's done. You could make it big and obnoxious, or you could make it smaller and just get, but it's a beautiful marsh area out there, and you can't really enjoy it the way it is, so.
There's no way to do that.
Yeah.
There will be roadblocks, people across the way won't want to see anybody, EPC has to go through the conservation arrangement, there'll be roadblocks. But
I
from
will-
our perspective,
Yeah, I will say that the ecologist from the consultant said that that was one of the most delicate areas, and that
Oh,
one
I
thing they
bet.
wanted to keep people off of it.
I can see that.
So I'm not sure driving pilings into there, how that works out with.
You know,
But I don't know.
it's the tension of all this
but-
stuff, if people
Yeah.
can't get out and enjoy it a
The
little.
land trust has a float, sort of a little boardwalk in Tokenique through the Phragmites, and it's so special and beautiful, and it really is like
Been on that, that's
a
really
unique
nice.
experience.
Now, that's just like on the, it sits on the ground,
Well,
right?
it's supposed to be above, but it just.
Yeah, it's done a
floods
long
all the
time
We've
time.
ago.
been, yeah,
Yeah.
they actually redid it last week, so you can go back down.
and there are
They have a
ways
lot
to-
of these in Florida and in the Carolinas and stuff. They
Oh,
have a
cool.
lot of these
Everybody
like
loves it.
elevated boardwalk
Yeah.
things that like, sometimes they like mesh into like a formal trail, and then it goes over an area so you can like be up above it and kind of look with a clear view and see these and sort of be in nature, but not necessarily touching or infringing on it. I mean, that could be an angle for something like that. You're not walking through the fragile environment. You're
There are studies that show whenever you allow people to walk, bird populations reduce. So all this stuff is compromises, but if people can't enjoy it, then they don't get exposed to it and understand it. So it's some sort of
yeah,
balance.
yeah,
Vote? Yes, no,
keep it.
yes?
Yes.
I'm for it.
Moving on.
QR codes.
That's right. I put that in there.
It makes sense.
Create easy to walk or wheelchair accessible to all specific scenic viewpoints to outside with benches may include boardwalk to accomplish this.
Yeah, I threw that in there, and you also may have seen it, it's been talked big time, that they want that availabilities for certain scenic spots. Now, you already have one that's flat down near the dock, but they're gonna want someone looking the other way toward it. So, you can either recommend it, or it's gonna be, we'll see what happens in the survey, because we're talking about all that.
Yeah, in the survey, the ADA accessible was like, there was no other choice. It was
Yeah,
ADA accessible.
and I'm not
is,
sure
ADA
that's true,
is.
but they're pushing it, so.
Yeah.
I don't know how you wanna handle that, or just,
Yeah.
we don't even have to talk about it if you don't want to, just let's see what happens.
Yeah, I don't know if it's necessarily right.
Okay,
Yeah.
pull that out. Okay?
Toward the natural shoreline of Great Island as viewed natural viewscape from the water is not compromised by new non-natural structures such as a boat raft storage. Because we think we've already covered this
Yeah,
one.
we did.
Did we cover the stuff up there under trash cleanup?
No. We're getting to that
You're
now.
getting to that?
Yeah, that's next.
Okay.
It's actually last, I think. So trash cleanup, environmental restoration, clear Ziegler's Cove seafloor of accumulated debris. This is Bill's.
I know, I keep throwing that out there.
I mean, I think if you can
I
find
like
a
the
way to
idea,
do
but I'm
it.
not gonna push it, so. What do you think?
It's actually grant monies that.
Why don't we just
Save
have
the-
it out there as a vision for the future, you know?
Save the Sound's gotten grant monies to do that in various parts of
Clean
Long
up
Island Sound.
seabed area?
Yeah,
Great.
phantom lobster traps and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Maybe you could get a nonprofit involved sometime in the future.
I'm
Tackle.
all for cleaning up stuff.
I'm gonna leave it in.
Don't put a
Then we're
sign.
gonna put
cleaning up
signs.
No sign, don't put a sign.
No, you can clean up all the signs.
I don't have a problem with that. I think, like, again, as a grand reaching
Yeah.
goal,
Yeah.
like, if this is our property and we're trying to keep this around for generations to come, like, not everyone cared as much about what they threw in the water 50 years ago as they do now. So, like, if there were grant money or there was, like, some opportunity to find some stuff and pull it out, I think that may
should
not
do
be a
it.
tomorrow thing, but
Yeah.
it, like, could be a long-reaching thing.
Yeah. Tackle the invasive Phragmites in the marsh area.
That's a hard
It's a
problem.
battle.
It's yeah.
It's a wicked battle.
It's probably a losing one. I think they talked about it in one of the ecology sessions. My concern is when they talked about doing it at Weed Beach, we talked about using herbicide. Shooting herbicide into every single
It's so hard.
stalk, which means it's likely gonna end up in the water.
Definitely.
And cause other
And
problems.
it's every,
And
fragmite is
it's-
just every.
Yeah, it's gonna come back.
I personally think it's bad.
I mean, there's a real reason though, if you get rid of it, you get cat o' nine tails or other
Oh, yeah, it's
things,
so much better.
which have a lot more bird supporting
I agree. because it's-
nutrient
it's too
things.
dense.
But there's a lot of them down
Yeah, no, it's huge. They're also pretty.
there.
Yeah, they look good.
And they do create a habitat.
The deer were
Can-
running through them like crazy.
Can you rephrase that again? It says something along the lines of, continue to monitor and explore, control, or,
Trolls probably a better
or,
choice.
Encourage more natural habitat versus.
yeah, or explore and control expansion of invasive species.
The if they hire the coastal resilient, like the type of coastal
Yeah.
resilience, that would be one of these, that would be in
Yeah,
that.
but maybe that goes in the bullet point by the coastal resilience thing.
Yeah.
It's like, monitor and
That's a good point.
continue to explore options with invasive species. in the-
Maybe there's grant
in the-
money sometime in the future. For
Totally,
People who want to do that project, yeah.
Yeah,
And maybe
you know,
maybe
that
it just
was-
creates a bullet point that like, hey, like, we don't know what this problem is or how we can fix it yet, but let's keep this on our radar. And
And not everything's a today thing.
not at all, but if we know it's a problem there now, maybe it can be dealt with as time goes on.
Yeah, and one thing that was interesting on the ecology focus group, and Bill, you might even be the one who brought this up, but someone brought up grant funding, and they were happy to hear that that was an option for some of these things, because when the town's looking for sources of revenue, that's a great source of revenue, is to get some grant money for some coastal resilience planning
Yeah, definitely.
or other things.
There's a
Anyway,
lot
that's-
available.
Did anyone else have anything they want to add to this list? Anything we covered?
Very much quiet. So I guess we got enough to work with here to put this together and.
I think we did a really good job.
I do too.
It's really comprehensive.
Thanks for throwing it all in one place.
Yeah.
Not too comprehensive.
What's that?
Too comprehensive.
I already said my piece. Listen, I think people have a lot of good ideas, and the sooner we can actually get humans out there to execute on some of this stuff, the better.
And I'll tell you, since they opened it up on Saturday, we have been going in all these spots, and you're seeing all kinds of things that, were never talked about. When you go behind where the riding ring is, there's all kinds of interesting things back there. There's a whole nother big building back in there at one time with foundations, and you can see maybe there was a quarry off to the left side. There's a pet cemetery up on the top of the hill. I mean, you start going wherever you want to go. It's amazing what you can find. Pretty cool.
It's really, at the core of it, it's really a special piece of property. I mean, to be in someone's private hands for over 100 years and not be sort of touched and developed is something kind of unheard of.
Let's hope it stays special like that.
Couldn't agree with you more.
Is that our general sentiment?
Yeah. Keep it special.
Keep this,
Keep it special.
Keep it special.
Done.
Okay,
Anything else before we
Let's talk about
adjourn?
ordinances a little more.
Still a couple hours.
You can, I gotta go.
no new business, and can I have a motion to adjourn?
Before we do,
Oh, yeah.
I will say something. This is my last year on the commission. I've appreciated my time here and the camaraderie and the friendships. It's time for me to step away and let some new blood come in. But it's been a pleasure getting to know all you guys and be a little bit more involved in the town I grew up in. So, thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And I'm sad to see you go, because I think your voter input on this was really,
Well,
really good.
Yeah,
glad to be
Really
part of what it
helpful.
could be.
yeah, your last one was special.
Okay, so, motion to adjourn, seconded, Adjourn. Can I ask,
It was an
if
illegal
anyone
vote.
hasn't told, are you coming back next year? Okay. Did you send me
said
an
it.
email? Yes, okay. Rob's coming back, Bill's coming back. You have to come
You
back.
have to come back.
You're hostage.
Sam?
Sam.